Hey, it's the Bennington Show on a Tuesday. Yesterday was a big day. I just can't remember what it was. Memorial Day. I should have been able to remember.
You forgot.
Yeah. I think it's great. I just set up a thing that 4 people had no idea what I was talking about. All right. Today is, it's the town hall that we're doing with Martin Short. So we'll be live in about 15 minutes. Now, first time listening, this is the Bennington Show. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington.
Yo.
And I'm Ron Bennington. Now, we're in here with what I like to call our staff. You know what I mean? The staff of 3. 3-headed mean dog, I like to say. But Gail, I was hoping that you could get us talking a little bit. I mean, it was a big... Well, I know what we got to do before we get into that.
Yes.
Who picked it? Who picked today's song? Was it Gail or Ron? Vito, you go first.
I think it was GB.
I think it was you, Ron.
This is the toughest one for me yet because my gut said Ron Bennington when I saw the song. And then I saw Gail Bennington dancing up a storm in here. I'm going with Ron Bennington, though, with my gut.
As you noticed, I didn't even know that the song was playing at all. I forgot that we were even playing a game. You had it, Chris. You were doing the detective work that you needed to do.
Yeah.
But it was Gail Bennington.
God damn it!
Damn it! Did you think we tried to fake you out a little bit?
Yeah.
You know, I forgot about the game itself.
So did I, and I was just enjoying dancing to the song I picked.
I was actually going to say we should have actually taken something a little more up-tempo.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of what I like to call the Akron Art School, band.
Yeah, I mean, it's an art school groove. A bunch of nerdy kids got together.
Art school, a lot of particularly English guys went to art school, but there are some bands that are just art school bands.
Yeah.
I believe the Talking Heads would be considered an art school band.
Which is weird because it's like they have a cool vibe, but I still think that there is that kind of nerdy element.
Cool weirdos.
Cool weirdos.
Yeah.
You're dweebs. You're weirdos. You're...
You're hipster doofus. Let's see. Roxy Music, only attractive art school band.
Oh yeah, they are. Because they've got the sexy factor.
They have
about
the
them.
incredibly sexy factor. We had Brian Ferry in here at this age now, not in the 70s. And Chris Stanley said to me, he goes, I just jizzed in my pants. Yeah. And I said, the reason why is because Brian's such an attractive man. He said he didn't even touch himself. He just started to pump jizz.
Yeah, it just came out of me.
Why don't you start us off with something that isn't quite so gross?
All right.
To talk about.
I have a question for you. What is a slur that is common now, but you can predict in 10 years it will be outdated, crass, and offensive to people?
Well, just to know, there were slurs during my lifetime that you guys never really did, with particularly a lot of anti-Polish and to a lesser extent anti-Italian stuff was said. But I don't think any of you guys grew up with what was known at the time as Polak jokes. But not only did they go around on the street, but you could hear them on TV. And they sold the books in bookstores.
Yeah, that's crazy to think that it's not even the type of racism we're used to.
Right.
Secret behind closed doors.
No, it was blatant fun racism. But that's how racism looks as years go by, as we notice the anti-gay stuff, which was only a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That people would say things that now even seems incredibly outdated.
But, talking about one that is completely outdated was like Italian derogatory terms, as my grandfather was telling me that before in Philly you would see they were called hoagies.
Okay.
The signs would say Dago sandwich. You could get a Dago sandwich. And he's like, and we didn't mean anything mean. Yeah. It was a nice thing.
That's
and
awesome.
A store would have that in the window.
Yeah.
To be like, we've got Dago sandwiches here.
Yeah, I mean, just life goes by. So, what exists now that will disappear? Vito.
I think calling people pussies will be off soon because I think people are going to be like, hey, maybe the female anatomy isn't a nice way to say you're less of a man or you're afraid of stuff.
Well, the fact that you make a big deal about manhood is already funny, that you say man up instead of what I like to say, person up. It's time for you to person up.
Be a human.
Jojo.
What kind?
I think the word tranny is going to be...
I think both of these are already today.
Tranny even more so, I think, than pussy.
Tranny's gone.
Like, there was a big controversy because even RuPaul uses terms like tranny as a joke in her show. And then, you know, the transgendered community, which is different than drag queens, are going, you guys can't use this. And they didn't understand why. And it was...
I'm going to give you two. There's two today. They're both in their infant stages. They were going. Ageism is going to be considered the same as racism. The whole, this old fart.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're hey, grandpa. That kind of shit is going to seem bad. And there will not be made any kind of weight jokes in the future. You won't get a fat ass type of stuff. There won't be a small kid in a movie who's fat, has to play catcher, and he stinks and then farts a lot. That will be out.
I always think of the parents of the child who is auditioning for the fat kid in the movies that I grew up on. There was every kids movie from the late 80s, early to mid 90s had the fat kid who was disgusting and was farting the entire
Farty
movie.
Fat Pants was the name of them. And then people would do hey, fat ass, you fat loser. Yeah, that'll be like the N-bomb within 10 years, I believe.
And I think that one has already begun, as like certainly that kind of body positive movement has sort of, started. The wheels have been turning on that. But the ageism thing I think is interesting because I don't think that that's begun yet, but I think that there will be a time.
Well, there is so much power in AARP. I mean, they are the voting bloc that matters. No one fucks with Medicare. No one fucks with anything when it comes to them. And people will just keep working forever. There won't be retirement because, you're going to have a blog about fucking flowers or whatever. You know what I mean? You're still going to be involved in life. You're not going to be like it used to be. They would have old people and have them over on the side cutting things out and coloring like they were in kindergarten.
Right.
It was like just keeping them busy.
Right.
But now people work right up until they die.
What about you, Chris?
The word douchebag is going to go the way of the dinosaur because it denigrates the lady parts.
First of all, what part of the lady do you think the douche is?
Vagina?
Yes. What denigration?
Oh, wait, that cleans the vagina. But I'm just saying, people will start to really think about what it
You haven't yet.
Well, the other
I'd love for it to
besides
start
me.
now. One that I like, this is not, it's actually used as a compliment, but I'm surprised still when I hear people say pimp as a positive. It's still to this day, I'm just like, why were we so comfortable with it to the point that, when bling became so popular,
Right.
suddenly people on the news would say it. Like people on the news would be like, hey, he's a pimp and pimp my ride. And it's just like, why did we think that was good? I mean,
It's someone who works in the sex trade.
Yeah, and not only is it someone who it's like a villain who works in the sex trade. This is not even like this is not
He doesn't
a good.
take care of
But
us?
there is.
No,
There are positive things, as in pimps up, hose down.
Sure,
You know?
Yeah.
Why is that?
And I work my pimp hand.
Yeah.
You know?
Drink from my pimp cup. Got my pimp cane.
Yeah, it's all.
There was a pimp obsession there for a while.
Early 2000s where it really broke because that documentary came out where they just went to the Players Ball and they showed the pimp culture. And it was just
And that was
crazy
the big
black
rise
guys.
of the pimp cup where everyone was talking
and
about.
by the way, it was also LARPing. No actual pimps were in that fucking thing.
One that I had to explain to someone recently is that the term gyp is not okay. And then I had to say, like, hey, just so you know that comes from gypsy. And they're just like, that doesn't seem like it would offend anyone. I'm like, gypsies. It would offend.
Okay.
They're not people.
Gypsies.
but we just don't know where the root word.
Right.
Like, I'm going to ask you this. Do you know where the term Jew someone down comes from? That's from a faith. There used to be a faith of people who didn't believe in Jesus.
Used to be, huh?
Yeah, they were called the roaming Jews of the desert.
Fascinating. I never heard of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Weird. I also think fuckboy is going to disappear just because it'll just not be popular anymore.
I think fuckboy's going to disappear because we never understood it while it was happening. And eventually we had to just give up on it.
Fuck boy, out in the streets. Well, it's like a lot of times if somebody's like a daydream Johnny, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're just a real airhead. You always go, what's going on in Gail's world to them? You know? What's going on in Gail's world?
I don't think that they say that.
Well, it's from the song, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it started, the song?
Yeah, I wish that song wasn't gaining popularity, though.
It seems to be taking off like a motherfucking rabbit.
Get watching shows like V, Game of Thrones 2, Love's Orlando Bloom, and James Dean too. And I think to myself, what's going on in Gail's world? Gail walks Birdie out in Brooklyn with her in her ears. New album's the best, and I think to myself, what's going on in Gail's world? And I think to myself, what's going on in Gail's world?
God, that song's so horrible. I love playing it.
It just really stinks. And it's not a good representation of me, Joe.
Or of any human. No human would be like that.
I'll never understand the Orlando Bloom.
Well, don't you love him or something?
No, I've never mentioned Orlando Bloom once.
Well, no, I remembered after. It was the city of Orlando.
No.
And I confused the two.
You're lying.
First of all, Joe, I think it's great that you used the Memorial Day break to go get a boy's haircut.
Thank you.
Because, for Little League season, it's going to be hot out there under your hat. You want a nice, short haircut. That is the most fucking third grade haircut I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he took a little too much off the top.
Yeah.
And the sides and the back.
Yes. And the T-shirt. He V-necked your T-shirt while he was doing your sideburns, or where your sideburns should be.
I didn't even ask for that. He just did that.
Joe has those little boy sideburns where instead of growing hair on your face, they just cut around your ear so your hair dropping down becomes a sideburn. Well, I forgot to tell everybody. We were all in earlier today for Maya and Marty. And a young graduate came in from Boston. Molly is here today.
Yeah!
You graduated.
I did. I made it. Barely scraped by.
But thinking about master's program?
No.
Yeah.
I'm done with school. I've been in school since I was 5. I'm done. I handed in my last paper and I forgot everything I ever learned.
Do you remember what your last paper was? Was it written down as to Sir with love?
Yeah. It was actually a love note.
Oh, nice.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was for a class that I took about writing about the past.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Not
Good
quite
stuff.
a history class, but kind of like that.
Writing about the past, everybody. There goes Common. Common's walking down the hall.
Bye. Bye, Common.
To me, he's just the common man.
Mm-hmm.
What's he known for? What's his big song?
Joe?
No one knows what Common's...
B.
Huh?
B.
Just the letter B?
No, B-E. B.
I don't
Two,
know.
like
that
as
song.
in two
Let's hear it. Sing
Yeah,
it.
and there's also go, go, go. There's go, and there's B.
He co-hosted it with Kelly. He filled in for Regis today.
Oh, wow.
And it was Kelly and Common And I'm like, why wouldn't they use 2 Ks for that? But then you know who their guest was? Maya Rudolph.
Oh.
Wearing the same thing that she wore with us today.
Very nice. It was a great outfit.
It was a good outfit.
It was great.
It was a really nice
I don't
jumper.
want to say this. Did you say dumper?
Jumper.
Because I thought her butt looked amazing in that.
It did, and I
Yeah.
understand why you would make that mistake, because that was where my focus was as well.
Good, because when we were walking over to do the show, I go, why don't you walk in front of me, Maya? And she goes, what, the outfit sets off the butt? And I go, no, I'm just afraid of Marty. By the way, it was really, really fun.
So great.
And we're playing it at 2:00. Best part of all, Chris Stanley
I knew you were going to bring
literally
that up.
fucked a duck out there today.
Yeah. You know why? Because of the scumbag audience member that screwed up the whole order of things.
No.
Yes.
Chris, I had to say to you in front of the guest, Chris, move over. You not only were standing in front of the audience for the questions, you stood in front of the video camera.
That was my fault. That initial problem.
That was I was trying to wave you over, but I didn't want to make too much of a distraction.
I was sitting next to you and I saw that little hand twitch. I couldn't figure that out.
You have to tell a grown man, do not stand in front of the audience, the stars, and the camera.
Yeah.
And then you kept coming up with the wrong name. It was my favorite thing that happened.
I know the particular couple. I know their names that screwed up the whole order of things.
Dude, it also happened at the end, so don't act like... And then you made up a name that was... I think it was Gildersleeves by the time...
Yeah.
You made up such a false bullshit name. But you got to switch out that position with Joe.
Yeah, Joe should be doing that.
Anywhere I can hide you. I don't know how deep of a right field there is in radio, but I got to place you there this year.
How did you come up with that one name?
Because that person exists.
No, they don't.
No, they do.
Do you remember what the name was?
I have it right here. Hold on. I believe it was Goldfarb.
It was also funny because all the names that were read out loud were super Jewish. Did you notice that?
Yes. And so were our guests.
One Mr. Gabe Fishbarg.
This is like, next we have Gabe Fishbar. And then the next guy's just like, no, I'm just Bill Smith.
I'm Tim Johnson. I don't...
No, Gabe.
And then Chris does this.
Why are you mad? Why are you mad that that's not his name? It's not his
Because he
fault.
kicked Gabe Fishbarg out of that seat somehow.
No, he didn't.
And Gabe, you're coming off like a bitch.
There was nobody else. But no, someone could have said, excuse me, I'm Gabe Fishbarg.
I'm going to find this Gabe Fishbarg. I know they exist.
My name is Gabe Fishbarg, and I had a question for Marty and Maya. Do you fish? And if so, what kind of barb do you put on the line? I'll hang up and wait for your answer. How sophisticated are those two people, by the way?
They really are, and they just have such a really cool rapport with each other. It was really fun to watch them both kind of lift each other up at different
By
points.
the way, I love the fuck with Canadians when they say that they're nice and then tell us how better they are than us.
I know.
We have health care for everybody, not like you people, where we let people rot in the street and die. We're great with blacks. We're so clean, incredibly clean. He actually, when I teased him about saying the city was clean, he said you could eat off the street.
Yeah, it's all true.
He said that?
He said it.
There's not a fucking street in the world anybody would want to eat off of. Put some eggs and fucking sausage down on the street and just start cutting it.
Although I've heard people say that about Singapore.
Yeah, I have heard that too, actually, because I know chewing gum is illegal there. Not
Yeah.
let's throw chewing gum on the streets.
And they're not, the littering is a big offense.
Yeah.
Really big offense.
Well, you know how a certain director told you that he's a big fan and wants to put you in a movie?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying, but Maya's married to Paul Thomas Anderson. I get done the show, Paul Thomas Anderson, I interview them. He goes, that was amazing. I want to do a 3-picture trilogy with you. What? And I go, first of all, you're being redundant. No. And he's like, no. I want to do 3 trilogies. I want to do 9 movies. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a huge offer.
And I go, what's it about? He goes, why would we care? You're in it. So it's just going to be different things that I do with them.
Wow, that is big
Congratulations.
news.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you guys are familiar with Boogie Nights or Magnolia or There Will Be Blood or Inherent Vice or what was the Love? Did he do the Love movie? Love Yourself.
Well, I want to keep saying Love Actually. It's
Yeah,
not.
me too. That's what's happening.
I always want to say Love Actually.
Me too.
Love is the power of all. The best power, the love power.
Punch Drunk Love?
Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah. And I think that's his 5 movies, right?
Also, Heart 8.
Love Heart 8.
That was his first movie, yeah.
That's a lineup.
A lot of people call
Yeah.
it Sydney. I still call it Heart 8. So he's done 6, in my opinion, classic movies. Now he's going to do 9 with me.
This is huge.
Yeah, it's gigantic.
Wow.
That's if I have the time.
He's really adding to his catalog.
Yeah. I go, I don't have a lot of time, but I do Unmasked as well. Speaking of it, I'll give you 5 minutes. We're going to announce the next Unmasked. It's one that we're all proud of. So be prepared to go to the iBang for the next Unmasked. It's going to be at nighttime, 8 p.m. at the stand. So it's available for everybody to go to. But it'll be very exciting. I hope it's, I hope it's just 1/9. I'm going to stay with the 9th thing as good as it was just hanging with Marty and Maya today.
They have such different brains, but they also they have. You can tell that they have some commonality between them, despite there being such different styles. You know what I mean? Martin Short is so old school comedy, but and her style is kind of like that dry, sarcastic, kind of toned down thing. But
Well, I always felt like I would be friends with Martin Short because I think Martin Short and Fez, particularly Fez on stage, share that same kind of
Very same
timing. Well, you were there when Fez and I did the hypnotist.
Yeah, it was
bit.
crazy.
We did that at the stand where he's hypnotizing. That was a bit that we would do at parties, and then we started to do it on stage for a while. But it was just that silly, this is so ridiculous. We did spit takes, one for 15 minutes.
Yeah, those are the best.
Yeah.
And really, really ridiculous, over the top by the end of it.
Well, there
It's
was
just,
that
full mouthfuls of water into each other's face.
But there was we used to do the spit take piss where I ordered more water. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'd already gone through this huge glass of water, and there was the thing that he would keep his mouth open. So during the spit take, suddenly the spit would come back at me when I was done. And it would okay, so that's grossed out. Come on.
My dad was in the audience for the hypnotist too.
Yeah.
And he actually really liked it, which
Why wouldn't he? What do you think? Your dad is so sophisticated?
No.
First of all, your dad played sax in Toronto probably at the same time Marty Short was up
every
there.
time that there's a Canadian person that comes up on the radio or on TV or whatever, he's like, another Canadian. Would you believe it? Yeah, I told him I was coming to see Martin Short, and he said the same thing. Canadian.
Well, Canadians love other Canadians. That's the thing about Canadians.
Yeah.
And I learned that from Mr. David Steinberg because they did a documentary about him, and all of Canada was so happy that there was a documentary about a Canadian. And, it got a 100 share there. It got a 100 share. But I will root for anyone who was born anywhere close to me. If I find out, oh, that person's from Claymont. I'm suddenly a fan and checking on the box scores, see how they're doing. By the way, did you watch the Golden State game last night?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Were you mad or?
I was happy.
They came back. For 3 games, I still felt like they would lose it. They won, and now we're going to get the NBA championship that we all want. The Stars against LeBron. It's going to be fantastic. Joe, you don't care about basketball, right?
I love basketball.
So you watched last night?
I did, yeah.
Why didn't you text me 3? That's why I like to. I like when somebody just hits a 3. One of my friends will just go ping, and I'll go look at it and say 3, and I'll be like, yeah, it was a 3. I'd rather do that than have friends. You know what I mean?
It's good.
I'd rather, my favorite people to watch games with now are not next to them, but just on text, not on the phone, just the text. That's it.
Next time, yeah.
I don't want to get fuck Sam Bradford. And I'll just get that, and then I'll be right back. Yeah, he sucks. You know what I mean? And it kind of feels like I'm being social.
And then that person says, we should watch the game together next week. And you're like,
All right, I'm having a little trouble announcing the Unmasked because it wasn't correct on our schedule. Was that Fish Barb who put the schedule together?
That was myself, Chris Stanley.
You want the nickname Fish Barb from this point on?
I would love that.
Another nickname, right?
You're Fish Barb.
Fish barb. When you really fish barbed it up.
Fish barb this thing straight
When
to
you
hell.
stood over top of them growling after you just went,
You're so mad.
Fish Barb!
You will be fish barb.
Your name's Fish Barb.
You know, I would say this. I think that I was raised well enough that if someone introduced me as Fish Barb, I'd just go, hello, I'm Fish Barb. And then later, correct them. I'll tell you a Marty short story. And so he was in one of those great marriages, 30-some years, he and his wife, kids. And, you know, it was also Lorne Michaels is his best friend, Steve Martin, you know, so their life is great. You know, like we're off to St. Bart's with Steve Martin and his wife, you know, all that kind of stuff. Well, his wife passes away, you know, gets ill, passes away. And she was so beloved with everybody that, you know, everyone's devastated, right? Just devastated. And a couple of years go by, and Martin Short is doing the Today Show, but the Wine Hour of the Today Show. I don't know who the hosts are, but it's whoever came before Kelly Ripa and all that. What's her name? Kelly Lee?
Yeah.
Kathy Lee.
Kathy
And
Lee.
Hoda.
Thanks. It's Kathy Lee Fish Barb. So Marty is on promoting something, and like I said, his wife's been gone for 2 years. And Kathy Lee said, you have one of the great show business marriages. And he's just like, thank you. And she's like, so are you both still in love?
Oh my God.
And he says, more than ever, just madly. And this is 2 years. And he's like, is it because you make each other laugh? And he's like, yeah, we do. We make it. And she just won't drop it. And, you know, and because she's doing this and the people at home, first of all, every woman in America just loves Marty Short more now.
Yeah.
Because he's vulnerable and he's saying, you know, no, it's more today than ever. All that kind of stuff. But when he gets out of there, he's getting texts from Steve Martin and Eugene Levy and people just, that was fucking awesome, you know? Just,
how long did it go on?
Oh, it went on way too uncomfortable, and then people were furious.
Oh man,
with Kathy Lee.
But how sweet he is, the way he dealt with it, like
couldn't have been nicer. Told her after, like, hey, I didn't know whether, you know, my wife passed away, but you know, no, you know,
right.
But he would not. But also, you could see in his face this thing of pain coming back, but also love. He's just, you know, he's just the guy that you want him to be. And women were crazy about him. But I thought it was funny that his friends, you know, Paul Schaefer and people like that were just finding it, the uncomfortability hilarious. Where women were breaking into tears and like, I love that man. And Steve Martin's like, he goes, I didn't see it, but I'm reading the transcript right now. By the way, he did a Steve Martin line in this thing that is funny as funny can be.
I mean, we just howled. That was the funniest moment.
They go out and do a two-man show sometimes, and it's fucking beyond brilliant because it's them. You know what I mean? Like, people forget that kind of timing. It's magical. But Steve Martin will be on stage and he'll say lines like, you know, I've known you all these years, but I never asked you how you got into the show business. And Marty was like, well, in 1980, I did a pilot. And he'll go, no, I'm not asking about your sex life. I'm asking about the work. And that's the kind of shit, like I was saying that, that it's kind of that making fun of the whole thing, but when those guys get together, it reminds me of shit that Fez and I used to do on stage, which is so stupid. You know what I mean?
It was so fantastic to be in the room. Maya Rudolph is super funny, but to sit there across from Martin Short and, I just have adored him since I was a little kid. And Three Amigos, I think, is probably, if I had to say, my definitive, comedy
Not Clifford
movie.
and Charles Grodin, Three Amigos would be the place to go. But yeah.
Yeah, that would have to, and then sitting across from him, you see how much he actually is like Ned, or, he kind of, you see that character is kind of like a heightened version of him, and there were certain moments and inflections that reminded me so much
like he's going to break into blue shadows on the trail. That, I think, is the only Lorne Michaels writing credit.
Really?
Yeah. It was Lorne, Steve Martin, and Randy Newman are credited as the writers of that.
Oh, that's insane.
All that music is by Randy Newman, where you feel like it's old, Western
the songs are really fantastic.
My little buttercup got the sweetest.
Ismail?
So fucking funny. All right, we're ready to announce Unmasked. Now, go over to the iBang for this. This gentleman has been our friend for years. I always thought when we get the right time, this will be one of my favorite Unmasked to do, because his mentor, I did the first day Unmasked, it runs second, Patrice O'Neill, and he's a guy who's, he was a fan of Patrice, a longtime listener of this program. Probably our first kind of steady comedian that came in and did the show as a regular. Now he's on 85 different podcasts, but has got 2 shows. But the fact that his special is coming out, we certainly wanted to do it. For me, this is a celebration. This is probably the most meaningful, on a personal level, Unmasked I'm ever going to do. Big J Ogerson is
Unmasked. This is the Unmasked. Come to our Unmasked.
why?
Come to our Unmasked.
Oh God, it's still happening. This timing me down. I was going for this heartfelt thing, a Big J, and then a song parody blows in. I know he sent out another song. I couldn't listen on my vacation on my phone, but I noticed he asked for feedback, and neither one of you guys gave feedback.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I responded to everyone.
I responded just to him. I didn't reply all.
Oh, smart. That way, yeah. Okay, Fish Barb. And this is Gabe Fish Bob.
Gabe Fish Barg.
Fish, what is it?
Barg. It's Fish Barg.
Barge?
Barg. It's Fish Barg.
Oh, yeah, you definitely made that up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I'm
definitely
going to find
good.
this man.
Inside
Now
you?
you're gonna
No.
All right.
bounty hunt fish barg.
So before I was interrupted, I was really into this heartfelt thing about Big J, because this is our guy who we really have watched his career explode the last couple of years, and now he and Dan Soder have got a show on Sirius, and I know how much this special meant to him. I went to the filming of it. His mom was there. His dad, his stepdad is there. One of them, by the way, has a very small penis. The other, uncomfortably large. He explained that while I looked at their faces. So this, I can't imagine, one that means any more to me. Thursday, June 9th, 8 p.m. at the Stan Comedy Club. Go to the Interrobang for a chance at free tickets. Now, after the show, they're going to put on a show there with stand-ups. And Big J is going to perform. It'll be right after our shows. As Big J, Louis J. Gomez, Dave Smith, Dan Soder, Jim Florentine. So I think that's $5. And so the night can go on for a while past the Unmasked. But it should be incredibly fun.
This one's going to be so much fun for us. Just because, not only because he's a buddy, but because we were all there for the special. So this is going to be a pretty exciting one. And I think we're all just going to have a blast.
Well, I love him and I love Christine. And I'm not saying, anything about Marty or Maya, but, after today, that ends the relationship. You know? It was nice, but it was temporary, It was like riding on a plane next to some nice people. And by the way, this is what Marty said to me after. That was wonderful. You work without notes. That's just. Oh, by the way, the one stupid lady who said that he based. What are you smoking?
Nothing. That was a pen.
Put it down.
Okay.
Who said he based it on Michael Douglas?
Yeah.
It's Mike Douglas, not Michael Douglas, the actor.
Yeah.
Mike Douglas, the. And I was going to make fun of her, but Marty went into a long answer about Jiminy Glick.
I was so confused when she said that. I was like, Michael Douglas? I can't get
the old Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas.
Philadelphia's own Mike Douglas. He had one of my favorite daytime talk shows because he had a co-host, right, who stayed with him all week. This is how hard it was to get people to Philadelphia, that you had to offer them a co-host. And then, so it would be great. Because if there was a comedian, if it was George Carlin or Billy Crystal or David Brenner, you got to see a comedian every day at 4:00 and not just Mike Douglas. And then Mike would do this. Last night we were out at Bookbinders. It was always the same fucking restaurant. Mike Douglas and Merv Griffin would get too close to the guests, both of them.
Right.
So, like, if you're the guest, they'd always be like this. The movie's coming out.
Oh, God.
And you would see them just get so close. And one time Merv had on Dustin Hoffman, and you didn't get to see Dustin Hoffman on a lot of shows, and he was going like this, Dusty. He would just kept saying Dusty. Dusty. Do you still play the piano, Dusty? And I was just like, oh, this is uncomfortable.
But that's the kind of best TV there is. Like, a little bit out of comfort zone. Like, I don't know if it's like a little bit like less professional or what
you want him to be, as a kid, you want to think to yourself when you're watching TV, I'm better than that guy, But I remember seeing this thing, and I'm a kid when this happens. So one night on TV, Burt Reynolds comes out on the Carson show, and Johnny shaves off half of his mustache, and Burt just sits there with the, and then the next day, and it makes all the papers. And then the next day, Mike Douglas just tries to do the same thing with like a much smaller.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm like fucking 7. I'm like, really? We're ripping off Johnny this quickly?
But who did he try to do the bit with?
Oh, just like a Macmillan and wife type star. It's like a real B TV star. Where you had Burt Reynolds, who, like the movie Deliverance. It's all fun until the banjo comes out. And everybody will get what that means at 2:00. So, Big J Okerson, Tuesday, June 9th, 8 p.m. Now, here's the exciting part. Hosting the show that night, hosting the Unmasked, Ron Bennington.
Yeah!
So even if you're not familiar with Big J Okerson, Big J, there was a roast for him. I'm going to try to work this into Unmasked, and it was over at the Creek in the Cave. And they asked me to come and do the roast. And I'm like, first of all, I don't like doing roast. And second, I don't like to go to Queens. So I did like a video that we sent over, and I said, I'm sorry, Jay, I know this is your night. I can't make it to the roast. I'm sitting on my couch instead tonight. And then I'm like, there's no way to get to Queens. Someone told me that there's a train that runs under a river. But how could that happen? How could that even be? How could a train go under a river? And that was an improv thing, and Chris had did it on the phone, fucked up the color. It looked like, seriously, there was a color that doesn't exist on the planet Earth. I don't know how you were able to do that.
I don't know. I didn't think there was a filter on there. Must have been a bad old phone.
Fish barb to the photo lab. I'm excited about this. Big J, Louis J. Gomez, Dan Soder, Dave Smith, Jim Florentine, and this is the exciting news, Mike Vecchione, all doing stand-up on a $5 show.
That's great.
When the stars come out.
Man, that is a perfect night.
Chris, do I want to have you walking through the crowd asking people? Now, by the way, there was no reason for you to say what their names were.
I'm going to stop doing that.
Oh, no, you're not going out there with a microphone again. You're too large and uncomfortable to be in that position. For you to not know that you were standing in front of the audience instead of off to the side was amazing to me.
Yeah, it was bad. That was a bad one. I should have realized that.
Well, you've never been in a lot of social situations, and you're not a show business guy.
I've become antisocial. Yeah, I'm an antisocial weirdo.
Is that since none of your friends will talk to you? Do you know this? None of his old friends will talk to him anymore.
What do you mean?
Oh, no, there was some sort of rift that happened, so now I just don't hang out with them or talk to them anymore.
This was his friends since high school.
Like how many people?
A good dozen, I'd say.
They don't talk to you at all?
No contact.
They're mad
whatsoever.
at you?
I guess, yeah. I don't really talk to them, so I don't know what they're mad about.
He won't pursue what it is.
You should ask.
I think it's bad enough.
Here's what I believe happened. A very Johnny Depp hitting his girlfriend with a phone.
Oh, no.
No, there was no Depp situation.
That's what it was?
No, not violent.
You should at least shoot a text, just to one of them.
Just the closest one.
Just to see, just say,
Why
are you
don't
mad
invite
at
them
me?
all in here on the show, and we'll find out what's wrong with Chris.
We'll do a town hall.
I'd love to do that. Fish Bob. Hi, my name is Gabe Fish Bob. This son of a bitch.
Screw you, Fish Bark.
So what do you do now when you're meeting up with people?
I hang out with people from work now.
Oh, wow. People from
Not us,
work.
though.
Joe's shaking his head.
Not me.
Now, I don't know whether. So here's the Johnny Depp story. So he and his wife are broken up. She shows up, had her picture taken, and there was a little mark on her face. She's letting on that maybe she was hit with a phone. Doug Stanhope, who recently did Unmasked, wrote this piece for The Wrap, incredibly well written, but basically saying once someone accuses you of this, it's hard to unstick that. Once someone calls you a wife beater, it's hard to, to lose that vibe no matter what comes out. There's an update where her article, his article, Stanhope's article, her lawyer called the article defamatory. Her lawyer said that about it. So I don't know whether Stanhope basically took the thing of, hey, we're his friends, and we were uncomfortable with their relationship, but we never brought it up before. I don't see how that defames her. That's just an opinion. Like some people, like a lot of times your friend is married to somebody or whatever, and you're like, I don't like her too much, but I'm not going to bring it up.
Yeah, and even sometimes it's a very weird gray area, because a lot of times when a relationship seems not good or not healthy and you think that you're helping by saying something about that, you are not. It's like 99% of the time.
Dude, I've made the mistake when my friends have broken up and then go, good, she's quite the fucking twat, only to have them get back together. and have
And
the
then
guy
they'll
like,
never forget that you said that.
and they're like, remember when you called my wife a twat? I'm like, not the one who separated from her. You know what I mean? I mean, I think what you did was even stronger than me.
But yeah, it's always ends up being bad business when friends say,
Because you can't be honest. Everyone's always saying be honest all the time. You can't be honest.
What do you do if somebody asks? If a friend that's in a relationship asks, "Oh, do you like so and so?"
I say this. I say, my name is Paul, and that's between you all. And then I go right back to Bart.
And then I say, my name's Bennett, and I ain't in it.
I like that better. Jeremy Tepper, he does the finest of all the show, the channels.
Yeah.
All the ones that Jeremy is in charge of. I was listening to a lot of radio over our Memorial break because it's a radio time.
It's a good. It's a good car trip, vacation time, like Memorial Day. It's like nice and short.
It's Martin Short. Did I ever get my phone back?
It's right here.
Oh, you plugging it in for me?
Yeah.
Good, thanks. I just had a freak out that I hadn't seen it the whole time. Now, so this is the weird thing, you know, that's the weird position that Stanhope has put himself into, is that you go to defend your friend. First of all, it's difficult to say that anything that happened when you weren't around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes you have friends, you're like, hey, he's a good guy, but you don't know what he's like with his chick. And it's difficult when anyone hits a woman to ever defend them, you know? But he did it. That's a buddy. You got to appreciate him. Now, Bill Burr did something on his Monday morning podcast where he said about Stanhope, great, you should, you know, it's great when a guy gets up and defends his friends like that, and you also can't unring the bell when you call somebody, you know, an abuser. It's also in the Stanhope article if anybody wants to watch the Burr video. But I think it was kind of cool that that Stanhope stood with his friend, and then Bill said, you know, hey, you know, stand with Stanhope and able to explain himself, because a lot of people immediately are going to be mad at Doug for this.
Sure. Yeah. But I think just like if you suspect that a relationship is unhealthy, it's the same idea of, you know, people say, if you knew your friend, you know, their friend's partner was cheating on them, would you tell that person? It's like, it's one of those uncomfortable things where it's best to just stay out of people's business.
Look, a friend of mine, I'm not even going to give out names. It was like, I said to him, I go, your wife is cheating on you. And he says, first of all, I don't believe you. Second of all, how would you even know this? You know, you're an asshole. Why would you even come? I'm like, dude, it was with me. That's why I'm 100% sure. And we were bad-mouthing you while we were doing it. Because that's another thing I like to do.
And I just don't want to see you get hurt. Okay?
Yeah. Please, I'm looking out for you now.
This is from a place of love.
And I actually even had to say this. And he goes, how could you do this? I said, I was drunk after we were done. And because I like to, you know, take off the edge with a couple old drinky poos. You know? I go, if you don't believe me, look at the tape. I've got it all here. I'm sorry about this. It's a little blurry here. One of my cameramen was terrible.
Fish bar?
It was Fish Bar. God damn it. So that's, you know, really nice. And I kind of, you know, I don't know, you know, where you stand in this whole thing, but throwing a phone, I mean, that's something, you know, people do. You know, here's your fucking phone, bitch. I'm not going to get mad at anybody for that.
But who hasn't been in
phone?
Well, who hasn't been in an argument with their significant other that probably would look bad to other people?
I would say any argument
Yeah, that
would
you were
be
like,
they're two bad people over there.
and then you know this because you don't argue that way in front of your friends and your
No,
family.
no.
This is like the kind of shit you say to each other at home when you're just like, I am going to hurt you bad.
Well, you're always like this. When you're arguing with your chick, it always comes down stuff like this. Well, you're the one whose mom's in a fucking wheelchair. You know what I mean? It's like the worst possible stuff.
Yeah, you heard me.
Well, at least my dad doesn't walk around with a shit bag on his hip.
And then later you have to explain why you would say something so cruel. I was hurt and I wanted to hurt you.
Yeah, right. What are the after midnights and the before midnights and the and the latest one, they've been married for years, right? And he does something like, I know your French ass sucked his dick. You know what I mean? Like and you're just like, man, that's that true shit that you do kind of just act like didn't happen, but it never gets forgiven.
And then you're like breaking up something from like 5 years before, like it had just happened, and you're like, you didn't think I still thought about that shit, did you? I still got it.
Why don't you just call your fat, sloppy-titted sister and tell her everything like you always do?
You leave my sister's tits out of this.
I remember once, and I'm a little kid, I'm like 5 or 6, so we're having like a Christmas party. So my grandfather gets, the whole family was pretty fucking sideways drinking. So then he stands up and he decides that my aunt, his wife's, my grandmother's sister, started too much shit last summer for her to sit there and enjoy the night with us at Christmas. And he just starts to fucking throw her ass out of the Christmas party. So I'm like fucking 6. I'm like, well, this just got interesting. And my grandmother got up and punched him right in the fucking mouth.
No way.
Just boom! And his mouth is bleeding. My mom and dad are picking up because, okay, everybody, we're going. And I'm like leaving. I'm like, well, I guess that's the end of the family. And, since it's like Christmas season, we see him again in a couple of days, another party. No one brought up anything.
Oh, yeah.
No one said a word. We're all back to partying. Everything is fine.
I went on a trip with some friends once, and we got snowed in. So our trip got extended, but we couldn't get out.
With Eric Snowden?
No.
That would have been great, though.
But we were in the house. All we had were, we had booze and some food. Mm-hmm. So we're playing some games like Never Have I Ever drinking games or something. It's a really bad idea when it was a bunch of couples.
Oh, no.
And so somebody had done Never Have I Ever Done the Shocker. It was just like a dumb thing. And my friend's boyfriend was like, yeah, I've done that or whatever. And this started a cycle that ended with like screaming, her throwing shit at him. Then she's like, yeah, before me, you were with that Puerto Rican. And we're like, you sound bad. Stop saying these things. And it was like an old hunting cabin. So it actually felt like a weird play because now she was up on the second floor screaming down at him and throwing shit at him.
That's
and
great.
we're like snowed in and couldn't leave. And I was like, this is a horrible play. We're in some sort of bad.
Dude, you should have been typing it up as it's going along.
What did she say? She said Puerto Rican, didn't she?
Somebody ends up with an antler in their neck. Call the police.
Do you guys know the game Two Truths and a Lie? It's an icebreaker. You have to you say 3 things and 2 of them are true and 1 of them is a lie.
Well, wait, didn't Vito steal this and make it into a game?
Yeah, that's Vito's game show. His thievery game
Vito
show.
had told us he wrote that up. All right, so 2 truths and a lie. All right.
At college orientation, there was this girl who was like, all right, so my dog's name is Spot. I have a younger sibling and I have leukemia. And we were all like, is the lie that you have leukemia? And she was like, no, my dog's name is, Fido. And that was how she let our orientation group know that she had leukemia.
I fucking love her.
No, it isn't.
Yes. And
That's the truth.
I wish it was, I have leukemia. I'm currently battling AIDS.
Oh boy, what do I get here?
I love that chick. I love dropping the leukemia bomb on people.
Oh yeah.
No one had, and the orientation leader just had to be like, "All right, who's next for Two Truths and a Lie? Molly, go ahead."
The best is, and now everyone go around and say what you learned about everyone. Well, that girl has leukemia for sure.
I always, when someone announces a disease like that, and let's do some stuff, I'm always wondering, because I've known a guy who he fucked up with a lot of the comedy bookers out there, and then he went back and said that he had cancer and he was dying and he needed to do one more tour, and then he didn't have cancer.
Oh no.
And I've seen people pull it off with, and it's a terrible thing to say, but when someone says something like that, I don't necessarily believe them.
Because of that experience, or just in...
I've seen it happen a few times in money-raising situations.
Right.
You know?
Do you think they're doing it on purpose?
Yeah, I think some people think I've got to... Well, like Chris, this would be a perfect time for him to get back with his friends if he said he had a brain tumor or something like that.
Guys.
I'll say it to him for him, like, hey, I know you guys are mad at Chris, but he's only got 6 months. Because you can't stay mad at somebody who has 6 months.
Oh, no, you can't. There's nothing that bad.
But what if someone said, I only have 20 years?
They're like, come back to me in 19 years.
Oh, jeez. Then I'll forgive you. 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Should we break now? Or, you know, I hate to try to talk to you about this stuff that you should be able to figure out on your own.
Yeah.
But you would be signaling me.
Let's break in 3 minutes.
Good. Because we have Doug Benson stopping by.
Nice.
I thought that I might have invented a game that he could do during Doug Loves Movies, but I tried to play it with Gail and her mother last night, and they couldn't follow it.
I didn't understand it. Maybe he'll understand it.
Why would I want to keep doing it? Why would I want to make the pain go on? All right, so he does a game that a show in Austin gave him, where you have if you go to IMDb, if you put in somebody, they'll put their top 4 movies that you think that they would like.
Right.
From that point on. I think that's even more difficult than the one that I tried to come up with. But this is a box office mojo statistic that's there. Let me just pick out a person. So if you say, I want to make sure the person's been around long enough. All right, if we say Robert Downey Jr., what is the biggest movie he's ever done, right? His number 1 box office, but that's also adjusting for inflation. Adjusting for inflation. So what would you say is his biggest box office hit?
Iron Man, the first one.
Iron Man, the first one is 4th for him.
I'll say Avengers 2.
Is that Avengers Age of Ultron?
Age of Ultron, yeah.
No.
God damn it.
Avengers 1.
That is correct.
Damn it.
Oh, nice.
Now, is this a fun game or a terrible game? Because you guys seem like you had fun with it. But last night they were immediately screaming out, what do you mean by inflation?
Well, I was confused. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be guessing the amount of money.
Why would you have to guess
And
that?
I thought for some reason that I was going to have to do some math.
All right, let's
involved.
Just don't say the word inflation.
Now, you have to remember sometimes that they didn't even have a larger... No, because it is adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
Does that make a difference about how you...
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you... Because $100 million movie in the 80s would be like a $300 million movie today.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Adjusted for inflation.
Nice.
All right, I'm going to give you guys one. Dustin Hoffman.
Shit.
I will say that it would be Rain Man.
Good guess. Let's see. Rain Man comes in number 4. You always pick the number 4.
Interesting. It's my
Graduate.
spiritual number.
The Graduate.
I'm going big time inflation here.
Now, adjusted for inflation, The Graduate would be $734 million.
Jesus Christ.
The Graduate is number 1.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh,
Inflation played a part in that.
it did. It truly did.
Let's break. We'll be back with Doug Stanhope. Doug loves movies.
Doug Benson.
Oh, yeah. Doug Stanhope we did before. Thank you for saying it into the mic, too, Gail. Some people are afraid to do that. They're afraid to correct me.
I'm not afraid.
After that embarrassing faux pas, I'm leaving the show.
No, I wish I hadn't corrected you.
We'll be back with Doug Bennington. Doug Benson is here with us. Doug Loves Movies, happening Friday, June 3rd at the Limestone Comedy Festival in Bloomington, Indiana. DougLovesMovies.com and at Doug Benson on Twitter. Great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you. All of y'all. This is awesome.
You know, we were talking about the last time that we did the Doug Loves Movies with you. It's the funnest, craziest event that there is, and your audience is quite insane.
They're wild.
Yeah, we had a nice time last night. Jim Norton was back on the show again.
Sweet.
Superb guest, that guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't know shit about movies.
Yeah.
But has something to say when it's his turn to talk.
Right.
And doesn't speak when it's not his turn to talk. Absolutely perfect. So funny, so witty. And, yeah, we got Morgan Spurlock was on last night.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I love having him on because, you know, I owe a lot to him because of my movie Super High Me. Really brought me a lot of attention, and I wouldn't have thought of it if it wasn't for Super Size Me. And then he's been really cool about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like he shows up on Doug Loves Movies.
Well, that's, you get guests like that all the time, too, that you would not expect. What's the last guest that people were shocked that came walking out?
Well, shocked?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Because I've really kind of got a stable of guys. So it's been a while since people were shocked by seeing John Hamm because he does it all the time.
Right.
But that's always gets a good goose out of the audience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, well, Bobby Moynihan did it the last time with me.
Yeah, that was fun.
And what was funny about him is that you see him being funny in a different way that he's funny on SNL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just being him. He's a funny guy.
Just him. So
doesn't
when
have to do characters and stuff.
when he's thinking of something, you start laughing. Like when he's not exactly sure, you're like, that's hilarious. And then you do that thing when you have a guest where the answers are movies that they were in. And there's nothing funnier than someone missing a clue to a movie that they've done.
Yeah, I slipped one past Jimmy last night. He's in, what movie was it? Oh, he's in Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah,
And did not recognize the tagline for Spider-Man, which was a lame tagline, I gotta admit.
Well,
it was "Get ready for the ultimate spin."
That's pretty bad. But Jimmy had, was like, I don't know, it was like a truck driver or something, and he's like Spider-Man stinks, and I don't like him. That was he was the man on the street.
Yeah, surly truck driver is his credit.
It was really fucking funny. But it is a really fun show to do. And of course, missing is every bit as funny as getting. Like, that's the part of the show that I think is funny, is shit that you should know and you don't. And then the audience kind of yells out at you.
Well, yeah, everybody
open it to the end.
freezes up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, I have to let them give their answers when the game is done and we've missed a lot of them. But it's still, it's amazing how worked up people get.
Yeah, people get incredibly worked up. And that,
can't believe you didn't say taxi driver.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Jodie Foster. She's a woman who's moved on from prostitute roles.
Now, it was fun. You had added a segment, too, that you got from a morning show in Austin that was mind-blowing to me.
Do you like that game?
I thought it was so much fun.
Because I brought a round of it for you, the three of you, if you'd like, to play against each other today, if you want to do that.
Absolutely.
On air or off, I don't care.
No.
All right.
But then I've also done something that I hope could be a game for you. And I played it
I'm excited about it.
I played it last night with Gail and her mom, and they didn't like it. But I did it with the guys here, and they did like it. And then I actually yelled at them, well then fuck it. It doesn't work. It won't.
What's is
And
a
I was
game
like, no, I
called
just-
Sports?
Well, it's off of Box Office Mojo, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's based on their adjusted inflation. So what would be anyone's biggest movie?
I see why women wouldn't care about that.
Yes, they didn't. But
I thought I had to
loved
guess what the inflation rate was, and he was getting really frustrated with me.
No, it's
And I was
not
like,
about.
so, do I need
the
to know what
specific math.
percentage? Or and he was like, no.
I'm going to wreck the car and kill us all. All right, so let me just do it.
Let's try one, yeah.
Yeah, let's try one. But I can see now. Now, this is, I'm going to give you, well, let me take it back because I got to get down to the bottom with this. But, some of these work better than others, but let's just do this. David Spade
Okay.
for adjusted inflation.
Okay, so I'm gonna guess Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy came in 6th.
Oh.
That low.
Wow. Adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about adjusting for inflation with David Spade. Is has he been around long enough? You know, adjusted for inflation, Gone with the Wind kicks ass.
Yeah.
But that was because it was long enough ago that tickets were a quarter. So, David Spade, I'm going to guess that things haven't changed that much, inflation wise. And so that would make, Grown Ups.
Grown-ups
Number
is
one.
Number 2.
behind.
Behind. And this is a cheat because this is a cartoon from 1998.
What?
The Rugrats movie.
Really?
And that would make
And that made the most money of anything he's ever been in.
adjusted for inflation, $181 million.
Wow.
And it probably grossed about, I'd say 130 or
Yeah.
you know, around there. And that's how much, because the inflation since 98 is probably pretty intense.
Now this should be cool. This is a big star. It's been around since the 70s. John Travolta.
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Man.
And I know
I like this game for you, Ron.
Yeah,
But for me, I would worry about that I would screw up the numbers.
well, you keep a very loose game. It's a very loose game, and there's a
But
lot
I
of-
insist on the correct
Yeah.
title, though.
yeah,
Because there's so many movies with subtitles that trips people up.
yeah. But then we'll also Doug will say this: let's throw donuts at the audience for a while, and then we go off and do that, and I forget that we're in a game. I lose my competitive spirit.
Yeah, I feel the same way on At Midnight when Chris Hardwick goes on a rant. I'm just like, I just want to answer the next thing.
Yeah,
Let's go. All right, so John Travolta.
yeah.
Do I guess first?
I would imagine that it would be Grease because it was probably around long enough.
Yeah,
Staying in theaters.
that would be my impulse to go with Grease. So, but since you took it, I will go with Look Who's Talking.
Oh, that was a giant hit that no one saw coming, and it's number 3. Number 3.
Wow.
Look Who's Talking.
So
Adjusted?
Grease is up there, I think.
For inflation, Saturday Night Fever.
That's
Now-
another one, but
Saturday Night Fever, adjusted for inflation, would make $348 million
Oh my
right now.
god!
But Grease, $660
Oh my
million
god!
dollars. Who knew that Grease was so much bigger than Saturday Night Fever?
I would have just thought it's stuck around in theaters for a long. I bet they just.
I definitely thought it was bigger. I thought Gail nailed the right answer out of the gate,
Well-
but I shied off of it just in case Saturday Night Fever wasn't as big as I remember it being. But they were both pretty huge movies.
They were gigantic. I remember there was a thing where they said one factory was just making nothing but soundtrack records 24 hours a day. That's how big that soundtrack was. But he became, I guess it peaked, because like Die Hard was not as big a movie as people think when it first came out. You know what I
Right.
mean? But after that, that's what made him into a movie star. So I guess everybody was waiting
That
for the
surprises
next
me.
movie after Saturday Night Fever.
I would have thought that would have been huge.
What's that?
That Die Hard would have been like a really
Die Hard didn't even make $100 million. It didn't make as much.
It did
money.
well, but it defied expectations because people, when they showed the trailer for Die Hard and Bruce Willis has got his shirt off and he's jumping off the side of the building, people laughed.
Yeah,
like people were like, "What?" Because Moonlighting wasn't exactly Die Hard. You know, like he became famous for being more like a romantic leading man, then suddenly he's trying to be Schwarzenegger or one of those guys.
If you go back and watch Moonlighting, it's very cartoonish, and he speaks really fast. And he's silly, and in Die Hard, he slowed it way down.
Yeah.
You know? I always think, well, you know this from living in L.A., but it's one thing to be a terrific actor, but we have more great actors than we do movie stars that can hang around. It's an unbelievably tough thing to hang around for decades as a movie star.
Yeah.
And they don't normally get a lot of appreciation from people, but to do what Tom Cruise did, it's the same as like winning a lottery a couple times. It's very hard to do.
Yeah, no, he's, and especially in his case, that's how good his movies are and how seriously he takes making them, is that all of his nutbirdery off camera hasn't hurt him that much. It hurts a little. Like, obviously, he'd be even bigger now because he's still making the same mostly great kind of movies he's always made. Like, people loved Mission Impossible 5.
Yeah.
So, that guy, he just works really hard.
And it seems weird that people aren't like, oh God, another Tom Cruise movie. Like, people are like, expect him to be in a big...
at least one a year for 30 years. You know what I mean? That's impossible to pull off and still be a box office draw. And most of the time, there is no more draw than him to the movie. You know, you won't see him do an Ocean's 11, and he doesn't have like a Star Wars franchise or Avengers franchise that's going to work no matter who's there.
Do you think that he's the one who's probably taken it the longest as far as stayed on top as big budget kind of movie star?
It's an interesting question because a lot of times you find out Bogart didn't last as long, or Jimmy Cagney. You know, he's had longer careers than them. I can't think of anybody who's been as long as Cruise off the top of my head.
I think number one, Cruise is certainly not number one every year of all those years, but he's, definitely top 10. But like, Burt Reynolds had a really good run as like the number one movie star for several, many years in a row.
Like
Cruise has had to fall back from the top spot here and there,
But if you look at where you could legitimately call Burt Reynolds a movie star, it probably started in the mid 60s, late 60s, and went to the early 80s. Cruise is twice as long as that now.
Yeah.
Where his name is above,
Right.
And I agree. I don't know if people line up to see his movies, but they see his movies.
He's never going to do a TV series.
Right.
He's never going to be on Evening Shade.
He's never appeared on a TV series. How many actors, even when he was a kid, he didn't, do 2 seasons of some...
Yeah, or like Brad Pitt was in an episode of 30-something.
Right. And did Dallas as a semi-regular.
Yeah, Tom Cruise started off, he was already in like The Outsiders. You're already like, what's up with that guy? Because he was already doing crazy method shit. Like, didn't he take a tooth out for that one or something?
Right, that was his thing.
Missing tooth, flipping over.
He put on a little, like, he got like a little chunkier than he was, even though nobody knew him anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Didn't change anything.
I slept in a dirty shed for 2 weeks. There was some
You didn't do that.
you don't have to. Barely even paying attention to
Yeah.
But that's interesting because you would think you'd get a role like that, and even though you're playing a tougher character, normally you would see somebody really playing up the pretty boy thing because he really was that, and then be like, yeah, I'll take a tooth out for that.
No, he was already, even though he was a good-looking kid and everything, he was already a character actor when he made Risky Business. Like, he was already a guy that, that was, a really interesting performance for somebody that age who it was first time being the lead in a movie. Like, so other than cameos and a big movie like Magnolia, Tom Cruise's only supporting parts have been in those first couple of Taps and Outsiders. And then
and I believe Endless Love.
Yes.
Was in Endless
Love. He has like one scene, I think. Yeah. And that's it, you know, and then it's just been a star and everything ever since, and probably no one's ever billed above him. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's interesting that you brought up Magnolia, because that was one of those kind of performances where even though, you know, he's been a big actor forever, I was so in shock of that transformation.
How great it was,
I was floored how good he was in that.
Well, look, Paul Thomas Anderson did that with him, and then also did it with Adam Sandler, where people are like, "Oh, fuck, that guy's better."
Yeah.
Than I thought he was. Wow, Adam Sandler is actually another guy who has stayed.
Yeah, his new one, The Do-Over on Netflix, is I'm hearing from people that it's really funny. It's with Spade. I almost brought it up when you mentioned Spade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's everybody loves it that I've heard from. I saw the trailer and thought it gave away too much. Seemed like it goes deep into the final act of the movie. But you know, I'll check it out while I'm on a treadmill or something.
Yeah, you can, that's the thing about Netflix. It's available.
Yeah. You can watch 10 minutes of something and go, F it. You know, I've had enough of this. You know?
Do you ever do that in the theater? Do you ever say,
no, I stay through the whole thing. The only reason I leave a movie is like I haven't seen X-Men Apocalypse, because the day I went and saw it, it was just a packed theater and there was nowhere else to move to, and there was like a 5-year-old kid behind me that wouldn't shut up, and I was just like, I can't do 2 hours and 16 minutes of a violent superhero movie this kid doesn't even understand.
Right.
At one point, the kid started singing Jingle Bells to himself, and that's when I was like, I'm out. His dad, I look over and his dad's asleep. So his dad just needed a nap of over 2 hours in duration, so he took him to that.
And you're not a guy who'll stand up and say, "Hey, shut your kid up." You'll just
I shushed the kid, and the kid said, "You shut up."
I'd say, now I want to fight that kid.
Yeah, you can't fight children.
I know.
So I just got up and left. But out of curiosity, because I just went and saw something else, because that's the great thing about the multiplex. But after I finished the other movie, which was much shorter, Neighbors 2, I went back just out of curiosity, just to see because it felt to me, it was annoying to me that I was the only one that seemed bothered by it.
Right.
That like there's somebody sitting right next to this kid. I was in front of him. Right next to him doesn't care. The kid's sitting sideways in his seat and kicking the arm and singing Jingle Bells, and the person next to him is not complaining. And so I went back in to see, if they made it through the whole movie, and of course they did not. For some reason, they were gone before it was over.
You were like, let's see if everyone.
I just had to satisfy my curiosity. Like, if they're still there, I was going to take a picture of them and then post it on the internet. Like, this kid sleeps while his kid talks during the movie. Because I'm spoiled by there's theaters now where that's their thing, where they don't allow talking, and they will actually enforce it if you rat somebody out. I'd hate to get up and have to go tell somebody, people are talking. But there's places that say they're going to enforce it, and it's so much better movie-going experience than some of these multiplexes.
I don't like to be
world.
watching a movie on TV when people talk that much.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I know you're a funny person, but let's watch the movie.
We'll talk about it after.
Oh, no. I know he has an extensive history. And he's been in all these other movies that you like.
Yeah, they want to do a commentary.
Right.
Instead of just watch the thing.
I like the kind of people who as soon as you put on a movie, they immediately start asking you questions. Who's that? What's that? Now they're together, or like, I don't know. I'm watching.
We're gonna let this flow over us.
Yeah, whether you've seen it or not.
Yeah.
They have questions.
Yeah, exactly. We're both watching it for the first time.
Just follow it. Try to figure it out. Isn't that interesting?
That'll be
you
the
need
fun
to know
of
everything
this.
immediately.
Yeah, that is true. Some people feel really thrown off if they're not 100% understanding the plot.
And that makes you realize that all of those movie formulas, the scripts, as much as it seems like, oh, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
People get lost if they are a few pages off of like hitting those marks of like,
things
we
have to be
introduce
explained
this.
a lot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We get the backstory. This person appears.
So you're saying that even the studio, like the suits will be like, look, we have to do it in the format, or it'll cost us $100 million right there. $100 million was there. We're not going to go there. I don't understand who all those people are.
Just don't go see it. It's
Whose
too
guys
confusing.
are so
It's one of my favorite things when a movie has fast talkers talking about something I don't know about.
Yeah.
Extensively. Like The Big Short, or Glenn Ross.
Yeah.
Like I don't know anything about what they're talking about. All those real estate things they're throwing around.
What was the film Love and that we just had the director?
Love and Friendship.
Yeah, Love and Friendship.
Yeah.
which is done in like an older time in England. And the first 10, 15 minutes, like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't like this kind of movie. And then it clicked in, and now I'm like, this movie is hilarious.
I got to check it out.
Yeah.
It's so
Because
good.
I feel that way from what I've seen of it. I'm like, that seems like work to me.
And it was, the only reason why I stuck with the screening is because I knew I was going to have the director in. So I'm like, this is, oh God.
Gotta find something to like about this.
And I'm like, do I bring up his old movies? Do I, try to tell him the other films? And then all of a sudden I'm just like, this is fucking great. And it was really like a light switch went off.
Yeah. I keep bringing up Paul Thomas Anderson, but Inherent Vice was one of those movies where immediately I was like, I don't know what's going on in the plot. I'm freaking out. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let the dialogue go. I'm not going to worry about like what's going on with the plot points and just kind of try to enjoy it. And then
you can.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie that way. I've seen it like the first time I saw it, I was like, I didn't know what was going on at all. Now I've seen it a bunch of times and I still have very little idea what's going on.
I'm the same way.
But I'm just very fascinated by that's a movie and that those things are happening, that he's that willing to do something so pretty much incomprehensible.
I've seen it like 6 times. And the only thing that I can tell you for sure is that film feels exactly like the time period that it took place in.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just this really short window in between like the 60s and the 70s where kind of like drugs had come into the suburbs, long hair came into the suburbs. Suddenly people's parents were having key parties and people still passed around pot. Because like a year and a half later, people was like, oh, I'm keeping my own pot. You know what I mean? I'm not fucking sharing it. But there was this one period where you would just expect to go up to a stranger and take a hit off a joint with them. And there's something about that he's captured. I can't tell you how, but it's almost like a feeling, like a taste, like a smell from that exact era.
Yeah, I think that time period is so fascinating. As someone who didn't experience it, I only know it from film and TV. But I love that there was a time period where everybody decided to wear like just really crazy suits. Yeah. But it wasn't young people. It was like adult, like dads. Like dads are like, we're going to wear these really flashy suits for like what, 3, 4 years, 5 years, maybe?
But this is the weird thing. In the 60s, those were the same guys that were yelling about hippies. And in the 70s, they suddenly got fucking long hair.
Like mutton chops
and
mustaches.
Yeah, and they're just like, me and your mom are fucking the neighbors. You know, everyone just went,
we went to a key party last night during the ice storm.
We don't know what just happened. You know, at least the 60s, there was some distinction. But you just see them, and Mad Men did it like in their later seasons where you just saw the men getting weirder and weirder.
Suddenly their hair was getting wild. Yeah.
But that's the thing, too, is like these people had money. Too, you know what I mean? Like they weren't kids, so it was just like, you know, someone's dad would smoke pot on a Friday, and then the next week, I bought a pound of pot. Now they say it's Colombian. Is it going to be enough for everyone? You know, it's just this real weird fucking scene that took place, and so that's why when you're watching her advice, you have no idea what is real and what is not, and what is part of his imagination.
I should watch it again, but I really did enjoy it.
I like all the characters. I like the way people speak. I like that it's it's kind of a comedy, but it's not like it's trying so hard for laughs.
I love that narration. It's Joanna Newsom does the narration, I think.
But only sometimes.
Yeah, it's very, and it doesn't really explain anything.
No, and she is
just sort of describes the weather and stuff. Yeah, I'm completely on board with that movie. The first time I saw it, I didn't like it. It was still for me a step up from. I was just grateful that PTA decided to go back to. I like movies of his that have modern music in them.
Right.
You know, like There Will Be Blood. There's just no room for that, and so it's a well-made movie. But I just love the way Boogie Nights and Magnolia and all the way back to that first one, Sydney. I just love the way he uses modern music and, modern things. Like if he made every movie he made took place like in the 70s or 80s, I'd be happy.
Right.
Because he does that so well.
And there's only a handful of guys who do it well. Cameron Crowe, always has like little things of, oh, I'm gonna go check home. Remind me after the movie. I want to fucking check to see what song it was playing. Wes Anderson, perfect with it. Marty Scorsese was probably the first to do that. But it's amazing how many people can't pull it off. Sandler is almost wall to wall hit songs from when he was in high school, I would say. There was a very short window. But you're just like, why is he just ramping up the Stick song out of nowhere? But there's a lot of music in Sandler.
Yeah.
And it's a very expensive thing to pull off.
Yeah. He is a super charming dude. Like, I bet you he's met a lot of musicians and, can kind of work it out with them a little bit. You still got to go through the publishers or whatever, but, whatever record company owns it. But, I've only made a few movies, but I got a couple songs in there just because I'm friendly with the artist who's, willing to give it up, So I bet you he does a lot of that kind of thing.
I think sometimes a soundtrack can kind of make a movie too. Like it'll push you towards, enjoying it more. Like I felt that way about Donnie Darko, where I was like, I don't know if I like this movie or I just love this soundtrack. Yeah. And then it really kind of made me.
Well, that's why now I think it's cheating when a trailer has a great song in it that has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah,
like the new
cheating.
Star Trek trailer has got Sabotage in it. Right. And there's hardly a better song. Like Sabotage is such an exciting and, forward-moving song that when the Beastie Boys made their video, they put on fake mustaches and just ran down the street and it was exciting.
Yeah.
That's how so when you have real special effects and Chris Pine going off a cliff, they did it in the first Star Trek. They used it in the first scene. But now using it in the trailer, I think that's cheating.
Yeah,
that's not what Star Trek is.
I remember there was Starship Troopers in the trailer. Starship Troopers. Yeah. They used that Blur song.
Yeah,
song two. Yes.
Yeah, song two.
That really sold that movie great, and then the movie turned out to be great.
It ended up being great, but I remember going to see it because I saw that trailer, and then sitting through it like, I'm really enjoying this movie, but can't wait for that Blur song to come up because that's when shit's really gonna kick in.
Never happened. Never put it in the movie.
Have you guys seen that movie Pan with Hugh Jackman? Probably not. It's on HBO now, and I was watching it because I was like, everybody hated. It wasn't that it was hated. Nobody went. Like nobody cared. It's like if it doesn't have the word Disney in front of Pan, they just like skip out or whatever. And so I watched it, and the only thing I hated about it, because it's there's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of good special effects. It's kind of racist that Rooney Mara plays Tiger Lily, but, she's a good actress, and she doesn't try to act Indian, she just wears fancy Indian headdresses. But they have, what are the songs? Smells Like Teen Spirit and Blitzkrieg Bop are sung by all of the tired, dirty orphans in this cavern that are worshiping Hugh Jackman's character. Here we are now, entertain us. They're all chanting that. It is so weird and out of place. It's like, remember Knight's Tale, how it had all modern songs in it, but people think that worked because I guess the movie was silly enough in general, but this Pan movie's not silly enough and it's for children. So why are they singing Nirvana? It's so weird.
Now I gotta watch it. Because I do
You can probably find that scene on YouTube.
I do like extreme strangeness in any film. It's always, like a Cronenberg type of, oh, what is this? Why is this even happening? Then I'll go back to later going, why did they think that people would like a grossed out scene like that?
Right.
I'm trying to think. Most musicals don't work for me. They don't work until they do, but there's so many times where I'll just think, would people start singing now? Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to pull off a musical in general. But I think you have to have music that's good. I mean, like, that's kind of why Broadway cheated
and they started just being like,
taking movies,
yeah, or like
and
take
jukebox musicals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're like, look, you already like these songs. You're going to get over the part that you're going to hate most about a musical. We've taken care of that part for you.
No, people really do. It is about like, you don't go see a band where you don't know any of their songs.
Right.
You might accidentally and then be won over, or they might be opening for another band and you can, find new bands that way. But people want to. That's also why there's so many spoilers and trailers, and people aren't up in arms about it because people want to know what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, they want a comfort. They want a comfort level to like. Am I going to be okay for the next 2 hours?
But the few times that it does work when a musical works in film, it can be fantastic. Like Hedwig and the Angry Inch is, I think, one of like the best ever. It's so fantastic, genius. And it might work because it doesn't do that thing where everyone breaks into song.
Right.
Hedwig just happens to be in a band and that gets played, but it's not like all of a sudden like everyone is doing the same dance moves or something.
Right, and they sort of made that work in the movie Chicago, the movie version. Every time they were singing, it had more of a feeling of like a fantasy or something.
Right.
It didn't just feel like they just suddenly burst into song. I saw this Steve Martin's musical the other day, Bright Star.
Oh, yeah.
And it, there's a lot to like about it. It's very old fashioned. The music is very what you'd imagine from Steve Martin. It's very bluegrassy, and there's a lot of dancing involving a lot of like stomping and clapping and stuff. But the lead actress, Carmen Cusack, is amazing, like really good. Like that's the best thing about it. But you were talking about, this is what made me think of it when you said, I don't know why people would sing here.
Yeah.
At the end of the first act of this show, something really, really awful happens. And usually you don't go to intermission. You usually don't go there like sad and like, oh man, how is this show going to recover from that? You always go out there like, what's going to happen next? Or I'm so excited for the characters, or I hope this works out. But it's a thing that happens. It's like in your mind, this can't possibly work out. This is an awful thing that happened. And now we're in intermission. Let's see what happens when we come back. They come back, and to goose ticket sales, I'm sure, because the show's not doing that great, and it's it's not going to win any Tonys because Hamilton's going to win them all. Mm-hmm. Steve Martin shows up when the curtain rises with his banjo and plays a song with the band that is happy and peppy, and he's smiling, and the entire crowd is on its feet cheering. Wow. And then the play has to go back to, when he's done, he just says, enjoy the rest of the show, and leaves. And then the play has to go back to this horrible thing that just happened.
Yeah.
And everyone on stage is insanely sad in the very beginning. It's just such a weird ass transition, but I was like everyone else so happy to see Steve Martin. It made the experience. Like if I'd have walked out of the show thinking, I still would have been like, but we got to see Steve Martin.
Yeah. And just
play one song.
Yeah. But Steve Martin is one of those guys, and I was earlier today, I was with, it's the new show, Maya and Marty, so they were both in. We did a town hall with them, and we were talking about Steve Martin is one of those people that you just want to see. Like if you see, because I've seen him on the street in New York, that's one of my greatest New York memories of Steve Martin just walking down the street by himself.
Yeah,
is like,
is that a snow leopard?
Yeah.
No, it's Steve Martin. Yeah. Even rarer.
Yeah. That's exactly what it felt like. And I was like, I had no one there at the time, to go, look, Steve Martin's walking towards us. But beloved, that man is beloved. And you brought up musicals. Remember he did Pennies from Heaven, which was almost like a career killer for him because he kept doing these bizarre artistic things early in his career. And they were freaking out over it.
Yeah, that was only his second movie after The Jerk.
Yeah. Crazy move to make. And
people liked The Jerk.
People went crazy for The Jerk, and then they're looking at this Pennies from Heaven, which is still weirdly interesting after all these years. Like, you still watch it like, wow, that's odd.
They made that. Yeah, it was, it was initially a mini series in England that was like, I don't know how many hours long, and it starred Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
And, I forget the actress that was in it, but, there was no internet to go crazy on, but they still, it was a story that they were upset that they were passed over for Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters to make the American version. And then it's just such a huge bomb. Nobody liked it or cared about it. And,
because the American audience just wasn't ready for it.
It was a dark ass musical.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever be ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just dark and a musical. But Christopher Walken has a great song and dance number in there.
Around the same time, Robin Williams did that Popeye movie, which also weirded out the audience. But if you go back and watch it now, you're like, well, the soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
You know, these songs that were written were terrific. You couldn't get anybody weirder. And that whole cast was just nuts.
Yeah. There's something really fantastic about the movie.
They
It's
really
so
disappeared
surreal.
into the roles. I mean, it was really a good. It's just. It had that Altman.
Yeah.
Mumbling and talking over each other thing. Like, it still had that thing. Like, he can't not do that.
Yeah.
And it also looked so surreal. It looked so like
Yeah, they shot it like in Malta.
Yeah.
They built a whole set, which is amazing because that movie was shot. A lot of it was genuinely shot out of doors, and it looks it. And then you look at something like Hook, Spielberg's movie, and it was all on sound stages. And it, you know, whether you like the movie or not, it just always looks like they're inside.
It always looks
Yeah,
fake.
it does.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't think Hook did well, but there's a whole generation of kids who grew up and they loved that movie.
Can we do the box office mojo game with Robin Williams?
All right, we will do that because it seems like it's picking up with you. Maybe I got a feeling. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not going to get tweaked at all. I feel like it could, but I feel like this could end up as a game on there. All right.
Well, initially I was with Gail because I was thinking that you had to talk numbers, but it's more just talking about
just the
figuring out what movie would be the most successful in the long run.
It's
You
just
gotta
their
figure
biggest, most asses in the seats. Robin Williams. Doug, you go first on this.
I'm going to say Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Gail, what would you say?
I would say that would have been my first guess, but I will say my second guess would be The Birdcage.
The Birdcage. Chris?
For inflation, Good Morning Vietnam.
All you forgot that he has also done voiceovers.
Oh, it's goddamn Aladdin.
God damn it.
No!
Aladdin by $3 million is number 2. Number 1 is Miss Doubtfire.
I did it! Wow, I'm glad Mrs. Doubtfire still came in over Aladdin, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
After that, Night at the Museum, Good Morning America, Happy Feet, then Good Will Hunting. This is surprising. And then Hook.
There you
So
go.
if Hook would have come out now, 246 million. So people showed up for that movie.
Yeah.
It's the critics that really
critics hated it, and
Yeah.
people love it. If I bring it up on Doug Lowe's Movies, the entire crowd starts chanting Rufio.
Yeah.
And I usually bring it up in a negative context, so it's hilarious.
I saw it as a kid, so I was just obsessed with it. I was young and...
But remember, parents hated it because they fucking killed Rufio. That the kids ended up loving that Rufio came over and was friends with him.
Yeah.
And then they killed that character.
Yeah, it was kind of sad.
Yeah. Poor Rufio.
Oh.
Rufio. Rufio.
I just shake my head and throw a donut at them.
But I will, if I see old friends, I will pull their face back and go, "Is that you, Peter?" And it's really. I'm at the age of life where I literally have to do that with a lot of my old friends. Doug loves movies, and you're doing it at the Limestone Comedy Center, a festival in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah, where where of course where Breaking Away takes place.
Oh, great movie,
Yeah.
1979. I'm thinking.
And the last shot in the movie is of downtown Bloomington. And it looks virtually the same now. And it says this movie in giant block letters. This movie was filmed entirely in Bloomington, Indiana. So we did a screening of that once when I was there at this same festival. And then the next year we did Hoosiers, and then this year we're doing Rudy.
Wow, that's
I'm
great.
trying to hit all the classic Indiana sports films.
Yeah.
At the Limestone Festival.
I didn't realize that they were known for 3 major sports movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
phenomenal.
the whole list.
Yeah. But that's 3. If you ask most people. Now, the thing that I loved about when they did that in 79 is the dad had words, kind of slang words, put down words for Italians that really didn't exist.
Heidi?
He called it Heidi food. I don't eat Heidi food.
I don't eat no Heidi food, yeah.
And, I'm from, outside of Philly, so it was, there was plenty of words to call Italians,
But such as also just a weird food to pass over as a middle-aged fat guy.
I think everyone eats Heidi food.
See, I think the premise was that he would have been in World War II. Maybe he was fighting in Italy and still.
Well, it also bummed it out that his son worshipped Italian bike riders and just was speaking Italian all the time, and so he was very frustrated. That's the part of that movie that holds up the least for me, is just that it's kind of. But again, it was a period film, obviously, but the attitude of the father was just so bad. And then he turns on a dime when he sees his kid winning the race, which I guess there's some truth to that. That sort of thing does happen to people that go into something that their parents don't want them to do, and then they're successful at it.
He's good at something.
Yeah, exactly. But I love that movie. That movie really holds up. It's really
Dennis Quaid's probably first movie, right? And I would think maybe his best. And then who were his other
Jackie
friends?
Earle Haley.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And Daniel Stern.
All of them.
And they're all really
phenomenal.
good characters, really likable.
Well, those are like
scrappy.
That also showed what life was like at that time, where the kids would have too much time. Like you got to swim place, but you're laying around. You're so fucking bored. People forget how boring their youth was.
Yeah, they
it's
only
just
remember
unbearable when you're a kid.
And you can't make any decisions on your own. You're just at the mercy of other people's schedule.
Yeah, you can't go to a bar. You really can't have sex. You don't have money. When you do have sex, you're fucking in the weeds like a dog or something. You're just outside. It's so uncomfortable. But everyone looks back at it like it was magical. But most of the time, you were fairly bummed out. And that movie was perfect for me of how shitty they felt their town was. That whole thing of, I'm afraid I won't get out. Like, you'll get out, you're smart, but I'm going to end up like these dudes working here. To
this day, it's a college town that has the students are there. There's, I don't know how many, 70,000 of them are there during the school year. And then the summer, it sort of empties out. So that's part of the fun of doing this festival in June, is it's just, it's basically just for the people that actually live there.
For the cutters.
Yes.
The cutters themselves.
This one's for the cutters. Unfortunately, that word has gone in another direction. They keep saying it in the movie. You're like, I don't see any marks on their arms, and aren't they teenage boys? Is that a boy thing to do?
Actually, I just heard from a guy who said he was a cutter the other day, and I didn't know that guys did that.
Yeah, I believe that Johnny Depp was a cutter. I believe that he said that he was a cutter.
Now, to him or to his wife? Now, you have to be careful with that, because we don't know for a fact.
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
We only know that in the past he's just destroyed hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Right.
So the man definitely has some issues sometimes, but yeah, I thought he was pretty mellow these days. But also, you marry a hot lesbian, that's going to be trouble.
Yeah,
She was, by all accounts, gay when they started dating. And it's like, well, what's going on here?
That's always great for threesomes, but you can't have a threesome every night.
Yeah, too exhausting.
She probably came home alone without another girl. And
that's it.
Had enough.
Just you?
Solo again?
Here's your fucking phone.
That whole thing's weird. I love that people attribute that they might have heard the box office of the Alice in Wonderland movie, that story came out. It's like nobody buys their tickets. If people want to see another Alice in Wonderland movie 6 years later,
right.
And also that last one was so bleak. It was a huge, huge hit. But it was such a gray movie. And the only interesting thing that happened was Johnny Depp doing that weird dance at the end. And then now they've got this super colorful version that looks like more like an Alice in Wonderland thing. And people are like, whatever. We're done. Yeah. But they went to 4 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Yeah. I just don't understand people.
Yeah.
That was really bizarre. Who would have thought
that they just keep going, and when they're all awful and all too long, and you're sitting there with glasses on when you don't have an eye problem.
I've only seen the first one, and that was enough.
Right,
pirates
that was
for
perfect.
me.
The first one's perfect.
Yeah.
It's fun that oh wow, what an interesting way to play this character. But for 4 movies?
I think sometimes his paycheck clouds his judgment.
Well, also I think he loves the outfits. I think he loves the sword play and all of that.
Well, they showed him going to like a place with sick kids, like the hospital, and he came in and played the characters. And you're like, okay, I get it. That's who it's for. But I guarantee you those kids can't follow those plots. I should be able to follow the plot of a children's movie.
Ridiculous. They're ridiculously complicated.
Well, dude, it was great seeing you
Thanks
again.
we didn't have time to play my game, but that's cool.
Well, let's do it real quick.
For reals?
Yeah, let's do it real quick. Because this is, I love all the games that he plays. And if you haven't been to Doug Love's movies, it's the funnest. It's almost like a comedy meets Rocky Horror Picture Show because the audience is so involved in this. But it's happening Friday, June 3rd, Limestone Comedy Festival in Bloomington and then all over the country. DougLovesMovies.com. Twitter is at Doug Benson. You got one for us?
Yeah, it's called Jason and Deb's IMDb game. We'll just play, just one round to show people what it's like real quick. So I name a movie, and it's in the top 4 of someone's IMDb page, most known for, and the metric they use for IMDb is just a whole bunch of things, like awards, how much money it made, probably adjusted for inflation, how many times people click on it or search it on IMDb. There's a page you can go to that describes how they figure out this, and it's way too complicated. So that also makes it fun to try to guess what would be in their top 4. So once you buzz in with your own name, then you can guess. And normally there's a penalty for jumping in on the first movie, but there won't be today. And the first movie on this person's IMDb page is A Fish Called Wanda. So you could jump in and guess, but right now you're thinking of maybe 3 or 4 different people.
Yeah, I'm going to guess.
Okay, Ron buzzes in.
I'm going to say it's Kevin Kline.
That's correct.
Yeah,
wow.
you did it.
Strongly about that.
That's my guess too, but I didn't want to risk it.
You risked it. Yeah.
So you would have gotten a point for that.
Yeah.
And then now if you can name any of the remaining 3, for each one you can name in 3 guesses, you get an additional bonus point. And there's no negative points for missing.
So this could be either actors or movies in this. It could be almost anything.
No, it's just like what they're known for. So there'll be 3 other Kevin Kline titles.
Okay. The Big Chill?
No.
Oh,
I know, right?
Shocking.
Very shocking.
Yeah.
But these are 3 that, he is known for, I guess. 2 more guesses.
Cry Freedom.
Yes.
Oh.
Nice pull. I don't think a lot of people would have guessed that in his top 4. Yeah, right? And then there's one more. You can guess one more. There's 2 more titles.
2. Oh, yeah.
One's already been mentioned in the last hour.
Tonight. Yes, The Ice Storm.
That's correct.
The Ice Storm.
Yeah,
which was one of my favorite films of all time.
And then the other one must be on here because it's on cable all the time because I think it's a fascinatingly bad movie. That's correct. Wild West. That movie, I cannot not watch it when it's on.
Well, it is the steampunk movie, right? Of all time. And it goes to show you, I think we all agree that it's awful, and yet it's close to being a classic if it would have made a couple of different
some weird choices.
Just a couple little different choices.
I was going to guess in that top 4 was going to be I'm a Gay Teacher, which is why it would be bad.
Oh, yeah.
Then it'll be just say the plot of a movie. You're like, that's not.
What was the name of that movie where he got outed?
In and Out.
In and Out.
See, I never would have remembered that title.
Either. I'm a Gay Teacher is what I.
I'm a gay teacher, and I'm gay. The whole. I'm gay. Is that thing we're supposed to feel good for accepting gay people?
And Tom Selleck is in it as a gay man, and I think it's the only thing he's ever been in without that big gay mustache.
Right, the first time ever.
That's when he shaves it off.
No mustache on
That's what he thought. That was his choice. If I'm playing gay, I better get rid of this head.
I'm so macho with this. Magnum PI isn't gay, and he's got this.
Doug Loves Movies. It's happening Friday, June 3rd, this Friday at the Limestone Comedy Festival in Bloomington, Indiana. DougLovesMovies.com, at Doug Benson on Twitter. Coming up next, we do have the town hall for Maya and Marty. Their show airs tonight at 10 o'clock. This is Bennington.
It's SiriusXM's Town Hall event with Maya Rudolph and Martin Short.
Did somebody say my name?
Yes, my name's Ed Grimley. It's very pleasant meeting you, must say.
Talking about their new variety show, Maya and Marty, hosted by Ron Bennington. Here's your host, Ron Bennington.
It's Maya and Marty, everybody. They
hello.
After, I think
Good morning.
after tonight, you lost your last names. You'll just be Maya and Marty from this point on.
Well, that was always my goal. Like Madonna, Sade,
Yeah, Liza.
Bruce.
There's not many guys who just have one name.
No.
Who are the one-named guys? There's not too many at all.
Well, Rock, you knew there weren't that
Right.
many.
Yeah. I would say Manson has moved on to that after.
You know what?
Yeah.
You're right.
To all the
That's
terrible
the dream.
people. Yeah.
The California dream for everybody.
California dream.
Now, where are you guys shooting the show? Is it New York or LA?
In New York City, in Rockefeller Center. Thank you.
6A, hip studio.
Very.
This is, both of you guys worked in that building for many, many years.
Yeah.
But both of you come from, even though different cities, somewhat of the same background, right? As far as improv first?
Very much so.
I'm Second City and she's Groundlings.
Yeah.
And together, they make a beautiful improvisational baby.
That's what this is, an improvisational baby.
Yes.
But is the study exactly the same? Is it?
I don't think it's exact.
Yeah.
No.
But
it's games and it's, the basic rules. Don't deny all those things.
Right.
Yes, and I think the language is spoken the same way, which I think is the basis of it and why it works to be able to commingle with other improvisers.
And you're going to be bringing in a lot of people from all your backgrounds into this.
Absolutely. Old friends, old colleagues.
People you want to work with, people want to hang with, and who you think would love to be able in a situation where they can be entertainers in front of an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is that he turns and smiles. But this is really the basis of any variety show. It really is like, before television, show business people would get together,
absolutely,
entertain each other, and that's a variety show.
Exactly, and I think, that thing that was so exciting about watching them growing up was the excitement of knowing that people were going to commingle in a way that I hadn't seen before, or some sort of hidden talent, or, some actor that you admire start singing a song, and you go, wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that to me is the epitome of an entertainer, someone who can just come out and literally entertain you. And it's not just one thing, but it's, and then I think the joy of doing it with other entertainers. Do you mind if I just turn my back to you?
Yeah, fine. I'm used to it.
I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know how to sit in this chair. There's just certain heights of chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to do this.
We try to have the least comfortable chairs that we could have.
That's what I asked for that.
You achieved it.
See, it's so good to know.
Keeps me honest.
We were going to have buckets and have everybody sit in a bucket, but this is the next best.
No, this is better. Way better.
But have you guys had those kind of parties where people would get up and entertain?
Fun, yes.
Yeah, I would have, holiday parties where people would, Mark Shaman, our friend, would play the piano,
Sure.
and people would get up and perform, and just in the living room, and Christmas time, Charlie Sheen would take the kids down, teach them how to freebase myrrh. I mean, it's festive. It's festive is what I'm saying.
It's everybody does what they do best, and there goes Charlie.
Yeah.
Not every
Charlie
day
knows
you
what
hear
to do.
about somebody freebasing murder.
But that is now. So any of your old friends who aren't invited on the show know that it's personal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it.
They're not big enough. Yeah.
They're not
And if
tall
they weren't
enough.
sure, we'll let them know.
We're doing 6 shows right now, and it's hard to figure out. Believe it or not, people really want to do it. It's actually hard for people to come and do a day on your show. It's not that easy to book people. Apparently, it's hard. People have like very busy lives. It's a lot to devote, but I think that you can get them for one day. Well, maybe 2. You need it for 2 days.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
Well, the comedy thing is probably easier than musicians, right? To book.
They're similar.
Yeah?
They're very similar. Well, musicians do go on tour.
Mhm.
I'll say that, right? But I
That's
feel
what I've read.
similar life, though. Well, stand up and
Stand up is always on the road. There's certain kind of divisions of show business that just are all about traveling.
But is there any kind of musical act that would not fit into this?
You mean like a Gregorian chant
Well,
choir?
I was thinking
bagpipes. We haven't booked yet.
Well,
Not
we always think of variety show music like a nightclub entertainer.
Oh, I see.
As opposed to Judas Priest. It's just hard to see how that
Well, I
would
think
fit
the
in.
thing that the consideration, truthfully, is that we're in prime time.
Yeah.
And so you do have to put a different headspace than as opposed to being on at 12:30 or even 11:30.
Yeah, the thing about variety shows in the old days, they had to be as mass appeal as they possibly could be. But there's a large variety of people that you could use very young, and you could use people that have, had a hit record 40 years ago. Won't matter.
Absolutely. And also I feel like mass appeal has definitely changed and evolved as time goes on, and audiences are very smart, and that's it's a less innocent time than when we were kids watching TV. People are very savvy that are watching TV, so I think the parameters are different, but we're not going blue or anything like that. Are you going blue?
Yeah, I will. If absolutely. If they're not responding.
When in doubt.
Yeah.
Just
straight
to it.
The very filthy comedy of Mr.
Oh,
Martin
absolutely.
Short.
That's how it started. You all know that.
That sex tape.
Yeah.
Open with a sex tape and grab the audience.
So to speak.
Yeah. Everyone always says that Canadians are more polite, and Canadians say that more than anyone else. But I always
we're just hammered.
Yeah. But I always thought that it was always a very quick, almost borderline vicious humor that comes out of Toronto. When I think of kids in the hall. And
Well,
all,
it's British influence, certainly Canada more than the United States, and the Brits can be, they can be a little mean, can't they?
But even SCTV, I felt like it just tore down. I thought it was very vicious.
Maybe it's the only place in their lives where they can actually have like anything negative to say, because 23 hours of the day they're so lovely and polite.
Right.
Nice see you. Sorry. Sorry.
They're always telling you that they throw away trash and how clean their city is.
Listen, I went to Canada.
It's true. You can eat up.
Summer. I visited Marty up at his house on the lake and
cottage.
Sorry, cottage. Sorry.
My cottage.
And went into town to get ice cream with the kids and realized they don't have real money there. They have fake Canadian money.
Yes.
And I didn't have any
Free
money
parking.
on me, and I was trying to buy ice cream for my girls, and some lovely stranger just said, "Oh, here you go," and was offering me money. Like, that's what happens when you go to Canada.
That's true.
People give you money.
They do. That's why I go so often.
It starts with healthcare, and then from that point on,
Unbelievable. It's ice cream.
Everything is free.
Unbelievable.
Now, Canada is a very kind of amazing, evolved country.
Yes.
34 million people. We've had healthcare since 1961. Gays in the military passed on page 15 once.
Yeah.
It's just crime goes down because we have sensible gun laws.
Right.
That's one thing.
We get it. You're so much better than us. You would tell us all the time.
I agree with you.
No, we just have sensible laws.
Sensible laws.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, as soon as you all get famous, you're out. You leave.
No, we come back for quick visits.
A state dinner
Yeah.
or two. All right, it is.
You're talking to a knight, P.S. Look at that.
You're a knight?
It's a knight.
The Order of Canada.
Humble brag. Is that what it is?
Uh-huh.
The Order of Canada.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just butchered that.
No, Sir Marty is fine.
No.
Sir Marty.
Sir Marty. Maya Marty premieres tonight, 10 o'clock on NBC. Now,
right.
you say you're doing 6 to start this.
Yes.
Who are the guests on the first show?
Mr. Tom Hanks?
Mr. Tom Hank. We have...
I think there's an S at the end.
Yeah, and you know what? You said that earlier, and I think if you check, I think you'll find you're wrong. We have Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
We have Larry David. And Kate McKinnon.
Jimmy Fallon?
And Mr. Jimmy Fallon.
All right, so...
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, struggling with the first show to get the big guests. But when you called all these folks, they're like, oh, this is a perfect idea for both you guys.
I've been getting texts from people offering to come to the show, to come on and play saxophone naked. I got a text that said that.
Really?
Yes. I won't name names, but that's the exciting part. Is now we fill in the blanks with all the people that we love that are funny and people we're fans of. You know.
Well,
Show 2 is Steve Martin and Tina Fey, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They're in.
Yes.
They're in.
They're in. All right, we got them. Is that what it feels like every time? Boom, we got them.
We got him.
Yeah.
Drake, we got.
We said some of these people could ask you some questions here during the town hall.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes. You, ma'am, you're the first.
I can answer.
Mary Migler-Rossi.
I can answer anything you want about Marty.
All right. Good morning. First, I want to say what a pleasure it is to meet you. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
And my question for you is, who is your dream musical guest?
Well, mine has always been Prince, so I'm gonna have to defer now. I'm gonna go. Well, I have more than one.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'd be thrilled to see James Taylor walk out. I'd be thrilled to see One Direction walk out.
Really?
Just for the ratings.
Yeah.
Just for the ratings.
I feel like that's different.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm going to go see Beyonce in concert very soon. I'm very excited about that. Because I don't get, there aren't many stadium shows I go to in my older age, and I like the excitement of a good stadium show.
Sure.
It's like,
What about Justin Bieber? Would you like to have him on?
Is that how he talks?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes,
Another Canadian, yeah.
Stevie Wonder would be delightful.
Stevie Wonder would be
I'm going
spectacular.
big, guys. I'm going big.
Yeah.
What about Paul McCartney?
I'm sure his work is great.
I'm going to get you a beta.
Yeah.
And you'll see. Yeah, you'll like
I've
it.
heard they're good.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Prince, and in Austin about about a month ago that you were down and did the show.
Yeah, we had this really bizarrely timed. I'm in a Prince cover band called Princess. So go ahead, chuckle. I'm a very large Prince fan. Me and my friend Gretchen been doing it for about 5 years, and it was just one of our many ways to be fans and to love him and love his music that we both have sung in our cars and living rooms and showers for years. Not together, but sometimes. And we had this weirdly timed show that we'd had for months, this festival on Austin, 2 days after he died. And Marty very sweetly, as a friend, was saying, like, you don't have to do it if you're not comfortable doing it. It was very strange to even think about having to sing songs that someone else that you love wrote that you never expected to not be here while you were singing them. But when I got to Austin, the people that I spoke to really wanted some sort of way of dealing with how they felt about it and their sadness and their heartbreak. So it felt more collective than actually me putting on a show or anything like that. But God, it's just been horrible.
Yeah, well, it ended up being the hottest show in the Moon Tower Festival that weekend, and then they went and handed out to the audience all those purple glow things, and everybody was swinging them, and people were just singing along and crying. And by the next day, all the websites, Rolling Stone, the entire bag, all these websites had people that were there that flew in just to see you do that show.
Well, that was also my guilt level. I was like, geez, people flew in for this. I better show up,
Yeah.
you know? But to be honest, I wasn't really... It was very difficult to do that because I don't have a lot of people that I genuinely love the way I've loved him and his work the majority of my life. So it was really hard for me.
Well, isn't that always strange too when something like that happens and that you find out that everybody loved this performer a lot more than maybe we said at the time?
Yeah,
you know?
It's been very interesting actually.
But I didn't know anyone that didn't kind of weren't blown away. I mean, he was not just a performer. He was a true genius, Mozart-like artist.
Right.
And you knew that right from the very, very, very beginning and continued.
Yeah. But it's almost, and since it happened so close to Bowie, it's almost like we take those things for granted.
Absolutely.
You know, like, oh, that genius, after a while you take it for granted.
Yeah, it's a genius we grew up with, and you think those people are going to be there. And can you believe that we were lucky enough to have such talented people on this planet influencing us and entertaining us and giving us joy, and then one day they're just not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's just brutal.
But it's so shocking how much that feels like losing a family member or something.
For me,
that
it
strong.
did. I mean, I think because what you realize is that you make these things personal.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know someone to be touched by them and influenced and to love someone and make it kind of a part of your identity. So it's been an interesting experience for me.
Well, that was, I thought was kind of cool that you guys were doing that show that night because it became somewhat church for the people that were there.
Which is nice and was never the intention.
Yeah.
I was just happy that Prince knew that we did it, that we knew that he liked what we did, so that made me happy.
But, you know, both of you guys, and you're talking about some of the guests that you have coming in, are those kind of people, particularly the ones from comedy that we forget, like Steve Martin has been a major, gigantic star.
He's my guy,
forever.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they're buddies, but he's like, you know, still my grade school heartthrob.
Yeah. No, I feel that about all that. And I know, Marty, that you had dated Gilda when you were younger. And that's the way I felt about Gilda. I remember going to get tickets for it was coming to Broadway, but I saw it off Broadway. And just to sit there and stare.
Gilda Live?
No, it was a play that she had done.
Lunch Hour.
Yeah, with Sam Watterson.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought tickets and sat and just stared at Gilda for 2 hours. To this day, I can't tell you, what the play was about, but I just remember thinking, that's Gilda right there.
That's how I felt watching her, and I never knew her.
Yeah.
But I just watched her like that. There was something about her that made me feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, when people talk about different comedians, you're like, oh, that person's great or whatever. But Gilda, people say, I just love her. People would, strangers just felt like they loved her.
She was kind of magical. I remember I first met her at the Godspell. We were in the show for a year, Godspell, and they were auditioning in Toronto. It was March 25th, 1972, Rain Man. And she got up and sang Zippity Doo-Dah. That was her audition piece. She had two pigtails on either side, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, that poor thing. That's as sad as anything I've ever seen. And Stephen Schwartz and all the producers jumped up, you're hired! I thought, ooh, I gotta rethink. I'm singing My Funny Valentine. I could be in the wrong. But she had so much, she was Mr. Sun, and she was marching around the stage, and it was total originality.
Did she get that people felt that way about her, though? Did she
Yes,
let that in? Yeah,
she
she
did.
understood that she was beloved.
She did, but she also wanted people to like her, and she made cookies for the neighbors so that they would like her.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Godspell. Who else was doing it? Because this was, all you guys were young, coming up.
Yes, it was really credit to Stephen Schwartz, who was casting it. He was only 26 at the time, 25. But there were about 500 people at the callback. It was like American Idol kind of thing, fame. And but he narrowed it down to Victor Garber and Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin and Gilda Radner and Martin Short and Paul Schaefer came in to play for a girlfriend, and he fired his rehearsal pianist and hired Paul, made him musical director.
Yeah.
Fabulous. And even then, in 72, Paul looked like the maitre d' on a spaceship. I mean, it was always his look.
But when you hear about that lineup, Canadians are better than us. You know, it's just amazing talent that came out.
No, Andrea Martin from Portland, Maine.
Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
And then she moved.
What'd she do that for?
She had a boyfriend.
It's always the way.
Who was your good man, Charlie Brown. She moved with him.
You know,
that's always showbiz.
Vietnam, a lot of people moved there then.
Yes.
That's true.
You get a letter from the government and you're like, Canada is great. I'm going to leave here for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. All these provinces.
Yes, next. Who's
Ellen Rubenfeld.
Hi, Ellen.
Thank you for your work. I love your work very much, both of you.
Thank you.
So, what is the most important quality in a comedy partner?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, Marty brought something up to me recently that was the second part of the answer I would give, which is we both have similar quality of life needs. And I think that's because we both have children, and I've got 4 kids and Marty's got 3 kids, and we like that more than anything. So that when work is work, it's fun and it's great and it's joyful and it's with people you want to be with. And then I think the first part for me really is, I mean, you're looking at the gold standard. Like, it doesn't get better than this. This is everything you want in a comedy partner. Boobs, brains.
Yeah. Derriere.
Just no interest in being the only one out there. And I think that has a lot to do.
And that's what I was going to say. And this is about Maya, is that what the secret is, I think, you work with someone with a huge, healthy ego.
I thought you were going to say something else.
No. I'll get to that. I'm not finished. No, a huge, healthy ego. So that means that they wake up each morning and they look in the mirror and say, I like you. So that means that it's not all about, I'm scared, I hate you, I want to be held. That's the worst.
You're not working with Shelley Winters?
Yeah, Shelley Winters. If you work with Shelley Winters, late Shelley Winters, and you do a comedy act, you're asking for trouble.
Right. That's a good.
You don't like me. Yeah.
Well, thank God it's not Maya and Shelley, because that would have been shocking.
I'd see that.
I would watch that in a heartbeat. No problem.
We're in it together.
But Marty, you also have like somewhat of a reputation for being a guy who has stolen movies. Like when people will know it'll be a big movie, it's scenes that you have done. So you do try to enter the scene.
Can't help it.
Yeah.
No. I think the secret of that is less is more.
Right.
Donny Osmond's motto, he once told me for doing one-man shows, interesting enough, was leave them asking for more. And Donnie's right. No, he said leave them asking for less. That was it.
Oh, very different.
When the audience is yelling, wrap it up, Donnie.
Yeah.
And
he's in his opening number.
That's when you know.
I love Donnie.
Now, you were recently in a film that Maya's husband directed, Inherent Vice, and it was another one of those things. You had a couple of scenes, crushed it, and then everybody was like, where did that guy go? That was so...
Dr. Rudy.
Yeah, you felt like you could just follow that character for a while.
I went down...
Dr.
Rudy Blatnoyd, I went down to the set just to watch him crush it.
That's true.
Yeah.
She was about 12 months pregnant.
Yep.
12 months. That's breastfeeding when that happens.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It was very exciting to know that I was going to get to watch him in action.
Paul is the greatest guy in the world to work with because he just loves actors and he knows and he's fallen so in love with the material he's working on. So the idea of having it come to life, it's amazing. He's a little genius boy.
Yeah, he is absolutely brilliant. But
Paul Thomas Anderson,
yeah,
everyone.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
PTA, we hip call him.
Do you just call him PT? Sometimes P is PT.
Nope.
No, never.
Not once have I done that. A lot of people do, actually.
Yeah, they will.
I've noticed quite a bit.
Call him what?
PT?
Yeah.
PT?
Yeah.
Now, did you meet him when?
Actually met him at Saturday Night Live.
Because he came in to write?
He did come in to write, and it was the same season that I came in on the later side. We weren't there at the same time. But when they brought me into my little office for the last 3 shows that season, it was still the days of the Mac SE30. You know, there was no server yet, so it was just a computer with the previous guest writer's work on it. And I noticed it was his, and I thought, wow, I was such a big fan of his work. And I saw him walking around when I had my interview, but I hadn't met him. But I ended up meeting him at an SNL after party. And that was 80 years ago. No, it was
4 kids later.
16 years ago, I think.
16 years. I think. 4 kids. It's like the Olympics. The kids come in like every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
Da, 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 da,
get a torch. Get some water sports.
Now, people have never really thought of him as a sketch writer, but he went in to kind of learn to do that, right?
I think that he was interested in it through mutual friends. He met Molly Shannon, and but Paul has comedy roots that people don't always know about, because his dad started out in Cleveland, and was a big household name there for a character he created called Goulardi, which was he and both Ernie Anderson and his friend Tim Conway met there at this TV station and started doing shows together. They have an album together, comedy album together. And then they ended up, and then Ernie started doing Goulardi, which is like all locals from Cleveland.
Sure.
You just say, someone says Cleveland and I say, oh, Goulardi. And they go, yeah. And then Ernie went, when they both went out west, Ernie ended up doing, he was the announcer for the Carol Burnett show among all of his other voiceover work. So Paul actually really grew up a lot around the Carol Burnett show.
Well, that's when we're talking. That's kind of the gold standard when it comes to variety. And I remember that cast came in one day to my show, and it felt like it was relatives from when I was a kid. There was such an amazing connection,
absolutely,
to those folks.
I mean, that's really a testament to those people, especially to Carol. I feel like you feel that way with Carol. I felt that way when I met Tim, and I got to meet Harvey before.
Yeah,
he went. I mean, all four of that main cast feel like family to each other. But then you just spend time with Carol, who you know, and she's a wonderful human being. She remembers the name of your kids, or how's your son feeling today? He had a runny nose yesterday, and I see her connect with people. I mean, I think that's why that show felt so special, among being so funny and so talented.
I don't think Carol Burnett could have been anything else, because she was so authentic on television that if she were not that sweet in person, it would be stunning.
Yeah.
And she is that sweet. Carol is as sweet and kind as she is talented, which is an insane thing to say about someone.
It's true.
Yeah, brutally funny, and would run through a wall if that's where the joke is. That's
and laughs. And gets is so hilarious.
That's why I always thought it was funny later. I mean, some of the people that we're talking about, whether it's Carol or Gilda, and then years later, people were still writing those articles of like, can women be funny? And you're like, where have you been?
I think it's just, I realized that they're just stories.
Yeah.
They're based on stories that some journalist wrote, and then until they get a new story, they just keep writing it. It's really dumb. I mean, look, it's really dumb to be on the receiving end. You haven't had to deal with it half the time, but I have. And it's just a waste of time. It's so boring. And it doesn't even really make any sense, but I think it's just journalists' way of wanting to be the person that declares that story. Because when I started Saturday Night Live, everyone talked about how it was a boys' club. But now that story's over.
Yeah.
Now it's a news story. It's just, they're just stories.
But everybody felt like they were shocked when Bridesmaids came out. And
that's what I mean. It's like, what? Like, so you're saying that all the years that I was on SNL were different than, than anything we're doing before?
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's just people's way of putting their stamp on something or declaring something or saying something, but none of us are doing anything different. And half the people in that movie that I'm in with are from the Groundlings. We all started in the Groundlings
together and watched each other and worked together coming up, and
Just took a while for people to catch on.
Yeah, I guess. But then they would talk to Paul Feig like somehow he was a wrangler, like a woman's comedy wrangler. Like, how do you do it, Paul?
Yeah.
How do you work with these women? It's hilarious.
It's like Tasmanian devils.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hi, guys. I was wondering, does anyone working in comedy today intimidate you?
A lot of people intimidate me. Does anyone intimidate you?
I know. I was trying to think, so I'd look more like the common man. Now wait a second. Let me think.
When you say intimidate with their talent,
What about Sacha Baron Cohen?
intimidates me.
Yeah.
Louis C.K. intimidates me.
Yes.
Amy Schumer intimidates me.
Yes.
Chris Rock, I love, and still intimidates me with his immense talent. Any great stand-up intimidates me, because I don't do stand-up. I think that is the scariest, most terrifying form of comedy there is.
And when done correctly, they become our society's philosophers.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris Rock is somebody who I think of as that.
Genius.
In times of crisis, we need a Chris Rock channel.
Yeah. You want to know what he has to say?
Yeah. Here's Chris Rock with the news.
Mm-hmm.
He could be our
That'd be
Cronkite.
fine.
God, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Well, you, Marty, you go out and you do the one-man show. Do you consider that stand-up, or is it...
No, that's more... there's so many pieces of that. That's like a potty with Marty. You know? And then Steve Martin and I do, we do a show together called An Evening You'll Forget for the Rest of Your Life.
Oh my God,
and then underneath it says in brackets, see them before they're dead. But we have a great joy doing that too. So I do separate shows in with him.
Well, Steve is one of those guys who walked away from stand-up about as big as you can possibly take stand-up. And then that's basically what he said, right? Like, I don't think I could do anything more. Thanks, I'll just do movies
Well, the
now.
exit's as hip as the entrance, ultimately, yeah.
That book, did you read his book?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to hear where those stories, where those lives come from. And, and you know, I don't know him like Marty does, but just as a fan, you know, you see the work as opposed to finding out where it came from. And I love that
Steve is kind of like the movie Deliverance. In a way. It's all
how so?
It's all fun and games until the banjos come out.
I'm gonna set my tea on that one.
Yeah. Well, his book was great because if you know, everyone just thought of him as the guy who exploded on Saturday Night Live and had all this stuff. But the 10 years leading up to that are so, you know, terrible that you're like, you think, why doesn't this guy quit? You know, why don't he just stop?
But he's a real artist. And you think of brilliant painters in their little studio and they paint forever and no one buys it, and then they spend the next 2 years painting and no one buys. You know, what's amazing about Steve is that usually your reactions to what the audience tells you is okay, I'll change it. He didn't. He went for a long time, people saying, what is he doing? He's balloons on his head. But he knew he was onto something.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was very strange because SNL, Steve's comedy, Andy Kaufman's comedy, SCTV when it was breaking, was all these things of people that were kind of making fun of show business while at the same time loving show business.
Right. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Which is the way I always think of everything that you do, Marty. Just this thing of, isn't show business ridiculous as you're completely enjoying it?
Well, you wouldn't have paid enough attention to make fun of it if you didn't know it. And why do you know it? Because you love it.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's go with the next question.
Christine Bailey.
Hi there. I kind of have a little bit of a two-parter for you. I think some of this you may have covered before, but I'm personally very excited by the idea of you guys coming back and doing a musical varietal comedy show. And I kind of wanted to ask what encouraged you to specifically choose that genre. And then the second part is just a little bit here. I am a huge fan of Jiminy Glick. He was one of my favorite all-time characters. Love the movie. Are you going to be reprising a Jiminy Glick type personality on a TV talk show? Because from what I heard, it was based on, I think, Michael Douglas, you said back in the day.
Yes, I am.
No, that wasn't for you. It wasn't. She was actually talking to me. Yeah.
You can go ahead.
I started doing Beyonce because I like Beyonce, and I'm very committed. Jiminy Glick will be appearing on our show. Absolutely wonderful to talk to you. And I think, why did we pick this form? Because it's what we do. You know, I mean, I think that you leave shows like SCTV and Saturday Night Live, and your ability is to do many different people within 90 minutes and many different things, different flavors, and that's kind of your gift, that you're a jack of all trades. And then you go out in the real world and they say, will you just do one portion of that?
Yeah.
And you kind of go, okay. But to be able to do it all, I mean, it's exactly what you hope.
Yeah, that's got to be the toughest thing, I guess, about leaving.
Yeah.
A show like that you come up with something that you can't immediately try to work out that week.
It's also the connection to the people. For me, when I left to have my daughter, my oldest daughter at that time, I'd watch the show and I missed the people. And so doing something in this way where you connect with people that make you laugh, and it's this silly, fun environment, is really the essence of that magical feeling of Variety for me. And that's what I took away from having to leave something I love to find out what it is that I love most about it. And it's goofing around with my friends, which is what I did when I was little, and now I do it for a living.
Yeah, and that's still the purest form of show business too. It's like the thing that, you know, you could look backstage and someone's walking an elephant down the hall and there's women in feathers ready to go dancing, you know. It's that thing that you imagined show business to be like when you were a kid. Both you guys grew up loving this type of comedy. Who was it for you first, Marty? Who was the first person that you saw and you're like...
I think that I had a lot of, you know, it would be from television.
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis, Lucille Ball, Jonathan Winters, Dick Van Dyke, Stan Laurel, Harpo Marx, more than Groucho.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of influences like that.
And what about for you, Maya?
My first one where I actually knew someone's name was Gilda Radner, mainly because I used to impersonate. Before I knew what an impersonation was, I really liked Rosanna Dana because my hair kind of looked like that. And I would do it for my family, and I'd elicit a reaction like, she's doing an impression. Gather round. That original cast was really exciting to me. I'd always wanted to go where Bill Murray went. Catherine O'Hara, a young man named Martin Short. Andrew Martin.
Yeah.
Madeline Kahn, Bette Midler. I was really, there was no censoring whatsoever in my household, and I was raised on every Mel Brooks movie there ever was.
Sure.
So there were a lot of boobies and Jew jokes floating around, and
you hear the great Mel Brooks story of when Neil Simon tells the story that when they were doing Show of Shows, Mel would make him laugh in anticipation of what he thought he might say. So one time they were walking to lunch, and 4 nuns were approaching them. And Neil said he knew that Mel could not pass 4 nuns without doing a joke, and he started to laugh knowing, I don't know what the joke's going to be, but I bet he's going to do a joke. And as Mel passed the nuns, he said, "Sorry, girls, the sketch has been cut."
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that basically what you guys are doing now is show of shows. It's still that same format. You try to grab the funniest people in the world, bring them together, see what happens, and then hopefully too that the backstage stories will be just as funny as the ones. Maya and Marty, that premieres tonight, 10 o'clock on NBC, and then every Tuesday night right on NBC. And next question.
This is Gabe Fishbarge.
Hi, I'm Spencer Gordon.
I'm Edgar Allan Poe.
Fish Bart.
Maya, is there any chance for a Bridesmaids 2?
Nope. I get asked all the time, and I would love to have the authority to make it happen for people. And if they change their minds and they decide they want to make one, I will be there with bells on. But I'm at the point now where I have disappointed so many people that ask me that question in hopes that I might say yes. And I've now just my blanket answer is nope. Which is too bad, because I would love, hopefully that group will reunite for something. If it's not that movie, then something else. But that sure was fun to make.
Did you guys know at the time that you had lightning in the bottle while you were shooting
We thought it was funny, but you have to understand, I was coming from Saturday Night Live where I didn't think anybody loved that much. Like, I was just used to people love to pan things, so I wasn't expecting anyone to go, hey, good job, kid. Like, I just used to, like, thinking that something is funny to you, but not expecting people to jump on board. And that's just sort of normal to me. It was very surprising, but it's nice when the intention of things is to make it the best possible thing. It can be for you or a joy to make. That really is like the epitome of the perfect experience. Is we thought it was funny. So.
Well, I saw that in a theater and ended up at a certain point just watching the people in the theater screaming, jumping around. There's only been a couple, like I saw Python where people reacted to certain scenes like that. But the food poisoning scene, I was watching people running up and down the aisle, grabbing each other and shaking, and I stopped watching the film and just watched the madness that was going on.
I'm just waiting for the day that I publicly get food poisoning and have to like recreate that embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole karmic circle.
Where people are just like, this is great.
Well, I went the other day, if you must know, to get my armpits waxed. And the lady was like, oh, we quote you here all the time. And I don't know. I'm assuming you can't use profanity here, but I don't know. It is serious.
Go ahead, help yourself.
Thank you. So she kept saying, oh, we quote you all the time. We say, oh, shit. And I was like, I don't remember saying that in the movie. And then she said, when you shit in the street. All right. I don't remember saying any of that, but okay. I prefer to call it poo-poo.
That'll be
stinky. It's stinky.
Yeah, that'll be the scene they play after you die.
Oh. It will be the only one.
the only one at all. Let's see what funny name he comes up with this time.
Mark Lipson.
Hi, this is a two-part question. One for each of you. What characters will you be highlighting during the run of the show? Either first Maya and then Marty. I don't know. Who wants to go first?
Marty does.
We don't know yet because, as I said, Jiminy Glick shows up. But you don't rule out anything. But you don't also bring back a popular character because he was popular once. You bring it back because there's a good idea for that character. So at this point, we haven't done any of the well-known characters yet, but we're early. This is our first show.
Yeah, first show.
Well, were you the first to kind of move characters around, the stuff that you had done on SCTV and then move?
SCTV, Ed Grimley was invented there, and he then moved to SNL.
That's very rare.
Yeah.
That rarely is allowed. That's why he's Sir Marty.
Right. Well, you were kind of in the kind of special year of SNL where they just went out and looked for gunslingers.
That's a big part of it, absolutely.
Too. Yeah. Who was all part of that?
It's crazy.
Yeah, who was all part of that cast?
Billy Crystal, Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer.
That's crazy.
Rich Hall, Jim Belushi, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
And if that year didn't work, Maya probably never would have had the opportunity to do the show,
I think
right?
that was it was Dick Ebersol. It wasn't Lauren that year, and I think that he was in a situation where it looked like it might be yanked, and so he decided to And I remember he asked me to do it, and I just finished SCTV, and I didn't really think I wanted to do SNL because it just finished the month before. And he said, well, I'm going to try to get Billy Crystal and Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer. And I thought, well, give me a call when you do, thinking he never would. And then he phoned up and said, I have them. And I went, wow.
Had you worked with Christopher Guest before
No, I didn't
then?
know any of them. I didn't know any of them. No, I'd known Harry a little bit through Paul Schaefer, mutual friend. And I'd met Billy back in the days when I was doing a series on ABC called I'm a Big Girl Now with Diana Canova. and he was on Soap. So we said hello, And, we quickly, I remember seeing Spinal Tap that summer before I started and being totally intimidated. You talk about intimidation, thinking, oh my God, these guys are way too good. They're way too good. They're geniuses. Wow. So that was daunting.
Well, you did a film for him for Christopher Guest,
The Big Picture,
where you played this agent that was
Neil Sussman.
Yeah, and I always
I don't know you. I don't know your work, but I think you're a marvelous talent. And I'm never wrong.
And that's one of those characters that's almost too real that we could go into the hall right now and meet that guy.
Yeah.
But
he says to his client once, now I've read half your script, almost half the way through, and it's brilliant.
But there was a movie stealing scene that you had. You're driving, and then you go to eat like a piece of candy or something, and you struggle with it. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And that's always the thing about you. There's never a comfortable moment, as you come in.
What an epitaph.
Yeah. He never let anyone feel comfortable. But how are you supposed to just have a piece of candy and get that into a
He's
laugh?
also on the phone too. He's driving driving like that. No, Whoopi's people they'll kill you.
I forgot what the original question was before we get back to what was the original question? Oh, the characters.
Where were you born?
Yeah, the characters. So, Maya, you don't think about bringing the characters back? Just.
But I agree with Marty, and we've talked about it. If it's topical, if it's funny, sure. But I'm not creating any rules that will allow or disallow in order to. I don't want to. The last thing I want to be is sweaty.
Right.
So if you're doing something for the wrong reasons, it always comes across as sweaty, in my opinion. And if something's funny, then that's why we want to do it.
But also, I think with Maya and certainly with Marty, your stuff is less about impressions.
Yes.
And just
more characters.
Yeah, it's a character you kind of start from that place off.
Absolutely.
And build.
Yeah.
But have you ever heard back from anybody that you did impressions of?
A couple.
Yeah.
Not many. I ran into Bobby Brown once. That was weird.
Oh, what did he say?
He said, "You're funny," and I was like, "Okay, good." Oh God.
Yeah, that's nerve-wracking. I find that most celebrities, you're talking about them, so that's okay. It doesn't really matter what you're saying.
I was dressed as Beyonce once, saying goodnights on SNL when she was on the show, and I said, "I'm so embarrassed to be standing up here dressed as you in front of you." And she said, "No, you were good. It was good." She's the quintessential lovely. She's got the most lovely demeanor. She has nothing bad to say about anyone or anything. I mean, she's really, a consummate sweetheart, professional, and all around kind human being. So,
and she's also
she's not going to tell me whether she likes it or not.
She's also above the fray. You know what I mean? There's very, very little that could happen that would affect her life, I think. I mean, maybe the president could take her down a peg, but I'm not even sure about
he's
that.
Not planning on it.
Yeah, no.
I did.
No, he's a fan.
I went on Oprah after I did Oprah, and she was very sweet about. At the time, I think I was the first woman to play her on Saturday Night Live after several men.
Right.
So I think she was relieved that I was female.
Yeah.
But I remember meeting Jerry Lewis, and I had already impersonated him in SCTV. We'd done Scenes from an Idiot's Marriage, Lewis and Bergman, and we'd done a couple pieces, and I was very nervous about meeting me. Hi, Marty, how are you? He couldn't have been sweeter.
Well, I think you were the first to play later in his career more serious Jerry Lewis. But everyone had always done the "Hey, lady," but you did the guy who sat down and talked about the.
I always did it as if he was having a lozenge in his mouth. The problem with Hollywood today is that they're afraid of a perfectionist. Oh, lozenge. I'll put it here.
I feel like I'm just watching TV. This is great. I have the closest seat.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
HD.
360.
Yes.
Ellen L.
Eileen. Close. Are Canadians funnier than Americans?
No.
Yes. What? No.
I don't think they're funnier. I think that
Depends on the Canadian.
Yes, it depends on the Canadian. I do think it's odd. I used to always be asked this question and think it was very, someone would say, "Is there something in the water?" And, on the CBC. And you think, what a strange question. There's no division with comedy. It's universal. But I do think it's odd. Then I kept seeing the people kept coming. And I do think that country is very supportive to odd behavior. And we are also influenced by more influences because we have the British BBC, we would get CTV and CBC and ABC, NBC, CBS. So we have a lot of influences, and we're in that kind of berth where we can make fun of people because we're like, "Hey, how are you doing?" Run. Protect us.
Yeah. And also they seem like they can give Canadian shows to a lot of young people. So there are a lot of people that are young, able to get a show in Canada and work out that way, which I think is
even
amazing.
the journalists, it's very interesting. Now you look at journalism and television in the United States, everyone's beautiful. Everyone's handsome. In Canada, they just look like people, on TV.
Yeah. No one ever said
ugly. Yeah. I didn't say that. Maya, stop doing my voice into this.
It's hard. I'm really good at impressions.
Maya Marty premieres tonight, 10 o'clock on NBC, and then every Tuesday after that. How far ahead are you guys looking, or are you just kind of playing with this show by show?
We're looking at the week ahead as we're doing the show we're doing. Kind of a combo.
Yeah, we had a read through yesterday for show 3, for example. So we're a little ahead.
But it doesn't feel like you go, "Oh, I know where I want this show to be in a couple of months." You're not even thinking that far ahead.
No, my first series I did in the United States was called The Associates, that James L. Brooks did. And it was so unbelievable to get to hang with him. He had just done Taxi and Mary Tyler Moore and all these great series. And he said that when they were doing Mary Tyler Moore, he turned to his partner, Ed Weinberg, and he said, it was third episode, second segment, and he went, "I think we got it. I think we figured it out." So to assume that you know what anything is on your first show is a little bit naive. You figure it out as you do it, and the journey is what's exciting.
Did this come together because of SNL 40? Was that?
I think that was part of the plan.
Yeah.
Certainly part of Lauren's master plan, yeah. Yeah, he paired us together. I came into it late. You and Fred Armisen and Mark Shaman were elected to work on the musical comedy segment, right?
Yeah.
I was brought on as the lady.
Yeah, we needed a lady. And then from there it was like dinners and meetings and hangs at Mark's studio and so many immediate laughs. And again, I found with Maya that I felt like I'd met her before, but this first extended period of time we're spending together, and yet very quickly I felt like I'd known her a long time because we had so much shared history and approach to it all.
But you actually might think that Lauren had that in the back of his head, that maybe this could work with these two?
I think he was definitely matchmaking in comedy heaven, yeah. I think he was master. He had a plan.
Yeah.
But he knows us both individually, so I think that's a really important element of it is can these people work together? Can these people enjoy each other's company? Because he's someone that really firmly believes in that too. He's someone who loves his work, and once you work with him and you become a part of that family, I mean, he's very loyal in that way.
It's really an extraordinary story what his career has been over 40 years. And here he is at this point.
Unbelievable.
And it's getting bigger and bigger than ever.
Especially in that building alone. It's crazy.
How much comedy exists that hasn't traveled through there. I mean, if you think of just what's gone out, it's even much larger than what he's controlling right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there has to be an ease. That's his thing, right? It's not a fiery environment that he wants to create.
Well, when he gets behind it and he feels that the departments aren't doing what they should, or he's pretty crack the whippy, and he's very, very, very focused.
Yeah.
He's not walking through anything.
And like you said, both you guys are friends with him outside of your career, right?
Right.
Well, they're pals.
I know. I've known Lauren since the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both. What's your order?
Order of Canada.
They're both Order of Canada.
The Canadian Mafia would be a better.
Exactly.
I'm just a nice Jewish girl from California.
And look where you've taken it. Look where you've taken it.
Right.
It is an amazing story. It's great to see you guys having fun together, and I'm sure everybody looks forward to it. Maya and Marty premieres tonight, 10 o'clock on NBC, and then every Tuesday after that. They no longer have last names. Maya and Marty, everybody, let them hear it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you. What a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evening is over. We hope you all enjoyed yourselves, and we'll see you all again in 1974. Good evening!
Fun was that?
That was excellent. It was so much fun being in the room. Those guys are great.
You know what? I'll be watching tonight at 10 o'clock.
Me too.
You know why?
I can't wait for it.
Because they're my friends. And I'm going to go out with Gabe. What was it again?
It's Gabe Fish Park. Gabe Fish Park.
I hope everybody enjoyed that.
I hate you, Gabe Fish Park.
I like Gabe, I think.
Doug Benson just had to apologize to Jermaine Lassier. It said, perfect at the Bennington Show and Doug Benson talked Hook. I loved Hook growing up until going to Doug's live interruption. He killed it for me. I have been into a late night movie thing lately.
You've been watching some late night movies?
More documentaries and rom-coms than I want to admit, but I watched a documentary last night that I'm going to highly tout from this point on. It's a band that I never cared for. Twisted Fucking Sister is the name of it. Dude, I'm watching this. I'm an hour and a half into it. And they still don't have a record deal. And they're still playing in Long Island. And it's fucking fascinating.
Oh, man.
Because they're just like, man, we thought we were over the top. There were 2,000 people here, 3,000. We're fucking bigger than the Good Rats. We're bigger than Zebra. And it's just fucking great. These Long Island dudes, just 10, 12 years into this, still pushing, still trying to get over. And I'm like, I have a feeling they're going to have one hit song. Fuck you if you don't like this band. It's amazing. So tonight is Maya and Marty, and I feel like we'll all be watching, good friends together. Joey, for this point on, anytime we're doing a town hall, you're going to be out with a microphone talking to people.
Do not
Chris,
give this. Yes, Ron.
I'm sending you out to lunch with 2 other people. I want you to know something, Chris.
Yes.
You're unfireable. You could not do anything. You could be dragging around a 4-year-old like that gorilla, and I would yell, "Don't shoot!"
And they
so you're unfireable. But You should be. That's the beauty of life. Like, you should be first fired.
Oh, God.
I'll get rid of the other two guys before you. You think Joey's going to be good at, walking around with a microphone?
Well, I think he's a little quicker on his feet.
He's slimmer.
You can say I'm smaller.
I don't think he could block. I don't think he could block that camera if he tried.
Or want to, the way Chris did, just stand like this.
God.
You actually stood in front of the audience like a bouncer, like don't look at him.
Why did you do that? Any idea?
Don't know.
If anyone, if you listen, you see me going like this, Chris. Yeah. Well, I actually used the word name Chris to tell you to move. Oh. And I mean, we've all seen roadies. We know what happens with the band. We'll never see the roadie standing in front of the lead singer and guitar player.
In fact, they got the cable like this. Yeah. They're like running back and
running
forth.
Down low. They have that slow run. And then they all do this. Check. 1, 2. Check. Checking. Check this.
3, 2, 1, 1, 2,
check.
3.
Mic
check.
2. Mic 2.
Mic check.
Mic 2. We get mic 2. We got mic 2. I remember being a kid going, that's got to be the most awesome fucking job ever. You get to check the mics before the big show. So anyway, tonight, it's going to be my new favorite night, Tuesday nights. NBC, the premiere of our lovely friends, Maya and Marty, starring Maya Rudolph, Martin Short. Maya and Marty are two, you just heard it for the last couple of, two of the funniest, most versatile performers. And the fact that they're teaming up for a great variety show, mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it was so great to hear kind of how the SNL 40th was maybe the moment that all got started. We talked about it.
It sounded like maybe it was done on purpose to put them together by Lorne.
Like Lorne had pushed them together, but they were so funny on the SNL 40th special, so it makes perfect sense. They're hilarious.
Let me just say this. Steve Martin is a lot like the movie Deliverance. It's all a lot of fun till the banjo comes out.
It was the best line.
It was the greatest. I was looking at one woman who was still laughing 3 lines after that, was still laughing and trying to suppress laughter about that one line.
Maya Rudolph's imitations are going to be hilarious. Martin Short's characters are like comedy legends.
They are.
It's going to be comedy gold, and they're coming into NBC prime time. It's going to be an hour of comedy sketches, musical numbers, big celebrity guests, featuring lots of people, Kenan Thompson being one of them.
Yeah.
So you won't want to miss the premiere. Maya and Marty after the premiere of America's Got Talent with new judge Simon Cowell tonight on NBC.
NBC.